Oh, baby, hour number 4, Stoney and Jansen. Stoney back on Monday. Lions lose to the Packers. Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. Penn State and the Nittany Lions at Ford Field today. It's going to be a party in downtown Detroit. How about next segment? We get into Michigan, Ohio State.
Sure.
Maybe put a bow on the Lions.
For now, yeah.
People are freaking. Some people aren't. I wasn't freaking, but now I am.
Come on.
What?
Just calm down, settle down. I thought I've talked you off the ledge. After 3 hours, I haven't been able to talk you off the ledge.
Has it been 3 hours? It's been a very quick 3 hours. How about for you?
It's been a little longer than that. I'm not going to lie.
What a jerk. Todd, you're on the ticket. Hello, Todd.
Good morning, gentlemen. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too, buddy.
I thought they were going to run away with this division, and right now I am not confident they are. I think it's going to come down to the last couple games, and what's really concerning me right now is the play of Jared Goff. I mean, if this continues, I don't know what they're going to do, but his play is very concerning right now.
Well, it's been concerning, but, let's not forget the fact that up until these last couple of games, he has done a good job of protecting the football. He's done a good job. We celebrated the fact that he was out there in L.A. against the Chargers when they had the wrong personnel, the wrong play, all of that stuff, and he put them in the right play, and they go 75 yards for a touchdown.
Todd,
there's a lot of positive that I think people are forgetting today, which is human nature. You're going to forget some of those things when you have a game against the Bears where he throws 3 interceptions and a game against the Green Bay Packers in division where you want to win those games. You hate your division opponents, and Jared Goff comes up small.
Especially the Packers. Yeah. But go on, Todd.
I agree with that. I hear you, but man, the last 2 games he's been so bad, like a completely different person. A caller earlier was like, is this finger injured or something injured? It's been so polar opposite from the beginning of the season to the last couple games. I wonder if there is an injury or something's going on, because every time he drops back right now, I'm nervous. He's missed Sam Laporta on that 3rd down pass across the middle where he was wide open.
Yep.
No, Todd, it sailed on him, yeah.
You're absolutely right. Now, I would say a lot of that yesterday was the offensive line as well. He had guys in his face.
Running for his life. He held
really
on the ball too long at times, but he was running for his life.
Just so you know, everybody at home is triggered right now because I just said it's not all the quarterback's fault, and I gave some blame to the O-line when they're yelling right now, but with Stafford, you always said it was his fault. I know what people are thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
You got a history?
I know what people think.
Yeah. Sorry, Todd.
No, that's it. Those were my concerns, and y'all have a happy Thanksgiving, and my wife and I are going to the Saints game next week. I'm very excited, so hopefully they can turn things around.
Road trip.
Whoa.
All right. That's a great road trip.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Such a great city. Big fan.
Oh, yeah. Of New Orleans?
It's so good. Yeah.
Have you frequent New Orleans often? You a Mardi Gras guy?
Couple different times. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun. The last time I was in New Orleans, my wife and I, right before COVID, we were there with a younger couple, and they were probably, 5-7 years younger than us. You know what we did? The older folk, we stayed out till 5 in the morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my wife and I at 5 in the morning found ourselves in a place called The Dungeon. It's a bar.
Oh, that's not where I went with that.
Yeah, what'd you think?
With The Dungeon, I'm thinking...
There was like coffins and everything. It was really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No whips?
There might have been. I think you had to pay extra for those. Yeah. I was very proud of myself. To this day, one of my greatest accomplishments of my life. They went to bed at like 2 in the morning. We stayed out till like 5 in the morning.
You outlasted them.
Oh, we did.
Good for you.
Oh, it felt so good. Again. Is that sad?
No.
The best moments of my life?
No.
Brian, you're on the ticket. What's going on, Brian? How are you, bud?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing today? John,
Brian!
John, you are very smart in football, and I want to ask you, I need your true opinion. Don't tell me about the record. John, don't this team look like just a good team with a good record, and they not a top 7 team in the NFL? Didn't it sound like that yesterday? That they just a good team.
They are just a good team, and when you look at the conference, all right, and the NFC, who's the best team? You got the Eagles and you got the Niners, and then it feels like you've got everybody else. And you could throw in Seattle there. You could throw in the Cowboys there. The Saints are hanging around because they're in a bad division. But So what I'm saying is you're a good team that right now is in a good position because the NFC kind of stinks.
John, I understand what you're telling me. I don't see the Lions beating San Francisco, Dallas.
Oh no,
Seattle,
no. Don't misunderstand what I said. I did not mean to make it sound like I think that they can beat the Eagles or the Niners. I think if they play the Seattle Seahawks, that they can match up with them and they can beat them. Maybe, they split that one. If they play 10 times, it's 5-5. But I don't think that right now they're nowhere near where the Eagles are, or they're nowhere near where the Niners are now that they've added Chase Young to the mix defensively.
John, I gave the Lions all the credit in the world, and I hate the Lions. But, man, yesterday, that defense, John, that was downright horrible. And I kept hearing how great the offensive line was. Man, they got smoked yesterday, and I mean smoked.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Jeff.
I'm curious. You are a Lions hater. You've been very obvious about this. Are you? I mean, you got to be happy. Are you expecting doom and gloom?
Oh no, you got to let the season. You got to let the season play out.
Oh, look at you.
You got to let the season play out because you never know. But man, yesterday I sat there and actually watched the whole game, and that defense was downright trash.
That's pathetic. No, the whole
defense was trash.
But Brian, I appreciate the call.
Yeah, and so I was going to ask him.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hang up.
No, that's all right. If you feel like there's a fix. Because the problem that you're in right now is that the trade deadline has passed. The free agents that were out there have mostly been gobbled up. I know everybody talks about Ndamukong Suh, and unless something happened yesterday, I don't think he's
I kind of feel that's a pipe dream, but yes.
But still, like that, where are you going to make this defense better? So you've got to find a way. It's up to Aaron Glenn to make this defense better. You're going to have to dial up some blitzes. You're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to be unique. You have to do it at the right times. And then it really comes down to the players on the field have to do something. And in the last few weeks, they haven't.
So Dan Campbell said after the game, I got some time to look at some things. Dan Campbell, whatever you want to say about him, over the last 21 games, has a pretty damn sterling track record. So if there's one guy that I trust can get this team back to playing good football, because he has, and every loss follows a winning streak. So I have no reason to believe that it won't be the same this time. But caller Brian calls up all the time. He's dead on. And I kind of think other people that are thinking the same way, they're dead on too. I feel, John, that we're seeing it right in front of our face. We're seeing this team deteriorating. We're seeing the defense get worse and worse. The offense was an issue the last two games as well. I just don't think we want to admit with this team that it could be happening again to us.
I'm not ready to admit that.
I'm not either.
You just spent the last 60 seconds going down that road. You've spent the last 3 hours going down that road.
I stuck up for Dan Campbell. I'm just bringing it up. But I do think about it. I have thought about it. I think people are thinking about it. Are you not thinking about it?
It's a concern.
Okay,
it's a concern that
go.
We've seen other teams improve. And other teams improve with the roster that they have. They're playing better. Dallas being the number one, where they're improving. Did they add anything at the trade deadline? Nothing of substance.
No.
And so you're looking at them playing better now than they were when they lost to Arizona or when they lost to San Francisco and got boat raced. They played well against the Eagles. Now, you could say, okay, it's a division opponent. I get that. They're going to play them twice. But they're a team that's playing better now than they did at the beginning of the year. Are the Lions playing better now than they were at the beginning of the year? No,
but that could change. You're absolutely right. It could change. And by the way, if you make the postseason, you win your division, maybe all the pressure comes off. Ford Field, insane for a home playoff game. Maybe that gets you going in the right direction in the postseason. 248-539-9797. I got this Michigan-Ohio State question for you. Mm-hmm. I want you to chime in on it. I want the people to chime in on it. But the game's tomorrow, and we'll continue to talk about the Lions. Oh, by the way, a lot of people are texting in about my dungeon experience in New Orleans. People are saying they've been to the dungeon.
Oh.
Others thought it was a sex dungeon.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mind went.
I don't know why your mind would go there.
Well, I mean, the way you led into it, and then you used the term dungeon, I thought,
I'm just saying, I was very proud of my wife and I. We out-partied somebody. Anyway. 97 won the ticket. I know.
whips and chains, but.
Wow, I've never seen Doug Karsch so happy in my life.
Short show.
Doug just barged in here. He's like, you want to know what happiness is? And I'm like, what? Making a lot of money? Having a hot girlfriend? I don't know. He's like, no, not realizing the Wings play at 12:45.
Wow.
Short show for old Dougie.
Yep, short show. That's, hey, short day, easy day.
You guys ever have a short show?
No.
What would need to happen? Like a West Coast game would have to go into extra innings, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, if the Tigers were in a West Coast game that went into 22 innings,
yeah, that could do it.
that could do it. You're talking about epic late night. I don't know. They'd probably have to curfew that game before that would even happen.
Yeah, they'd actually, the station would probably just interact. Like they would probably you know what? Enough of the Tigers. Let's go to Stoney and John. Yeah.
No, there'd have to be one of those games. I don't know, overseas. It'd have to be somewhere.
Yes.
That would happen. Yeah, no, it's not.
I'm sorry.
It's not in the cards. It's okay.
248-539-9797. The ticket text, the exact same number if you want to chime on in. All right, before we go back to the phones, I got to ask you this question, all right? Mm-hmm. So Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow, the game. Oh, my God. I can't wait. You can't wait. We've been thinking about it and talking about it with all that's going on. I ask you, John Jansen, 2 questions. Number one, now that it's tomorrow, who wins? Number 2, who has more to lose, Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh? Because if Ryan Day loses, that means he just doesn't lose the game. He loses to Sherrone Moore. He doesn't even lose to Jim Harbaugh. That's 3 in a row, and all the thoughts of cheating doesn't matter because he lost the football game. Now, if Jim Harbaugh loses the game, then I don't care who you are or how close the game is. Everybody's just going to yell cheaters at the Wolverines and say, see, you were 2-4. You needed Connor Stallions. You needed to develop a cheating scheme to beat Ohio State to begin with. And even if it's not true, that's what people are going to say.
Okay.
So who has more to lose?
So first off, I'll answer the first part of that question. Seems to be the easier part. I do believe Michigan will win.
Ooh.
I know there's breaking news. We have a breaking news sounder.
Oh, you think Michigan's going to win?
Yes.
Well, what? That is breaking news. Come on. I'm going to tweet that out. Breaking John news. Jansen is picking Michigan to win.
Yeah. But in terms of who has more to lose in this game, yes. Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh.
Correct.
So let's go back to the start of this scandal and play it out throughout it. What has happened for Jim Harbaugh in regards to the Michigan faithful, the fan base? Have they circled the wagons? Right or wrong, that's not the question. Have they circled the wagons?
The Michigan fan base?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it, although I kind of feel they've backed off a little bit when Michigan didn't want to go to court.
Right.
Could not go to court, but whatever the case is.
Yeah, whether it was the president of the university, the athletic director, and they're kind of in that corner
Sure.
where they've got to defend their coach.
Yeah, Santa enjoys Jim.
Right, but you look, and I know you love to go to social media.
I do.
It is, and when Jim Harbaugh said it's Michigan versus everybody.
America's team, yes.
Well, I'm just going to go with Michigan versus everybody. In that locker room, in the Michigan fan base, that's true. All right, so they've got Jim Harbaugh's back, knowing that he's gone down to Columbus last year.
Yes.
And then 2 years ago, he changed the narrative on this game. Now, outside of the Michigan fan base, they're going to say all the things that you talked about. All right, but who is it that will rally to keep Jim Harbaugh's job? The Michigan fan base.
Right. And the players love him too.
And the players love him.
Yeah.
If Ryan Day loses this game, you can put aside the fact that he's been to the college football playoffs twice. He's actually won a college football playoff game. He beat Jim Harbaugh back in 2019, but he's lost 2 in a row. If he loses this one, what do you think their fan base is going to be talking about?
That he lost to Sherrone Moore. Like, you had everything, yes.
Yeah.
You had
go
everything,
to Texas A&M.
absolutely.
You need to be gone. Even though he's beaten everybody, he was a end of the game field goal away from playing for a national championship last
Beating
year
Georgia.
After losing to Michigan.
And nobody cares. No, and I agree with you.
Right. So who has more to lose? Ryan Day has more to lose.
See, I think Jim isn't going to be around next year. Now, you probably know a hell of a lot more than I do, but you hear about possible suspensions. You wonder about going back to the NFL. If Jim leaves and he loses this game, let's say he's back in the NFL. Big whoop. Nobody cares. Nobody's talking about it. You move on. Ryan Day, if he sticks around in Columbus, which I assume he will, like Ryan Day is already a shell of himself. Like, think about it. Ryan Day, despite like dyeing his beard now, is not the same guy that beat Jim Harbaugh back in 19. This is a guy calling out an 82-year-old after beating Notre Dame.
Proclaiming his toughness.
Where's Lou Holtz right now? Exactly. Like, he's not the same guy. He really isn't. So he's had everything fall his way, right? Like, Jim Harbaugh got suspended. You know, everybody believes that Michigan cheated to beat the Buckeyes. If he loses this game, it's simply that the Buckeyes weren't good enough on his watch. After Urban kicked Jim's ass 5 straight years, Ryan Day did the unthinkable and let it slip, right? So I do agree. I think it's Ryan that has a crap more to lose than Jim.
And here's the other thing is when you look at history and in college football, I've said this, and I said this last week when Michigan was going for 1,000. Nobody outside of Michigan cares about the 1,000.
Yeah, I don't care.
But history does matter more in college football than really any other aspect of sport. The Ohio State fan base are terrified that they have the next John Cooper, a guy that can recruit better than anybody, has NFL talent year in, year out, is more talented a roster than anybody else, but can't find a way to win Big Ten championships or ultimately national championships, but more importantly, can't beat Michigan, no matter who the coach is.
248-539-9797. I wanted to add that to the mix. The show's almost over. We got an excited Doug Karsch coming up because he's got a shortened show himself. But I want to know who has more to lose tomorrow, and give us your predictions.
Hey,
how does this thing play out?
Who's shortening that show? Who comes on at 12:45?
Who?
No,
Crap, it's me.
I know it's the Red Wings, yes. But
like, come on!
More Jeff Rieger.
Oh, my, nobody wants to hear that. Yes, Wings and Bruins.
Yes.
Yeah, 12:45. Listen, I love the Wings, I do. But there's so much other things that I'm so into right now.
Yeah.
And the Wings have a big game. It's against the Bruins. But, thanks for reminding me.
Did they beat them last time?
They did. They
gave them their first loss.
And their only loss in regulation.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Yeah. Still
Standing
does nothing
tall
for me. 248-539-9797. Yeah, let's get some Michigan-Ohio State chatter in the mix. Breaking news. I've already tweeted it. John Jansen believes Michigan's going to win tomorrow. Okay? I never thought I'd see the day. Never.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Billy. You're on the ticket. What's going on, Billy?
Hey, happy Turkey Sandwich Day, fellas.
Oh, yeah.
You too, brother.
Hey, I wanted to bring this up. Two parts real quick. One, with the Sweat talk and the Young talk, we need to understand Mayhew was never going to make that deal with the Lions.
Holmes.
You know, in my opinion. But I wanted to ask John this question about the Lions. You know, you're a lineman. You see it. I see it from layman's terms, but it seems like we're crushing them in the run on the offensive line. Moving forward, we're great, but every time we're in pass protection, these guys are getting bowled over. Do you see that, you know, from having been in the depths of the offensive line your whole career?
Yeah, I don't see it as much. Obviously, I don't see it it's very infrequently that you see it from Penei Sewell. And it's a rare occasion that it happens with Taylor Decker. Now, I know Rashawn Gary got the best of Taylor Decker yesterday, but in the interior of that line, I do see it as a problem. Jonah Jackson, when healthy, is a really good run blocker, but he is average at best at pass blocking. Frank Ragnow, as much as we love Frank, he is banged up and he is limited due to his injury and has given up pressures at times. I don't want to say he's a liability, but that's not his strong suit. Same thing at the right guard position when it was with Vaitai. Vaitai is a road grader, but he's not a pass blocker. Now you got Graham Glasgow, who I think is an upgrade from Vaitai, but he struggled yesterday as well.
And I mean, even with the Chargers, when you watch that drive out of third quarter, we got the ball. We run Montgomery 28 yards. Then they go to play action pass. They have to, you know, they're on their heels all of a sudden. Then they give it to Montgomery again. He runs 8 yards. We're at 3rd and 2, and we blow it. It just, that to me is when I started to watch that, and I was amazed. They're pushing 3, 4, 5 yards forward, but when they're coming back, they're getting it down their throat.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. If Jared Goff doesn't get the ball out on the first or second read, he doesn't have time to be able to make a reliable third read. And if he does, I mean, you saw the fumble when his arm was hit. Ball was not coming forward in his hand. It was a good call, but he is struggling getting the ball out early.
Unfortunately, too, we're seeing the downside of Jared Goff, which is understandable. He's been so good playing at a high level for a long period of time. But we're seeing some of the stuff that makes you, remind you at least, that this is why, Sean McVay wanted him gone. Like, when stuff breaks down around him, he's not the most athletic guy. Newsbreaker. Like, obviously.
Another breaking news.
Exactly. I mean, the second fumble yesterday, literally running away, and the defender got his pinky on the ball, and it literally came out of his hands. Like, you get that guy on the move, I think you're in trouble. So, all in all, it is interesting because everybody was sold, except for Cookies, that you got to resign this guy. I don't know if people feel the same way right now, and it's only been 2 games.
Yeah, I think most people are wait and see. I don't think anybody other than Cookies is going to come on air and say, or call in and say he needs to be gone now. Go to Hendon Hooker, go to Bridgewater.
No,
but what are you? Okay, so if you're of that mindset, then what's your strategy moving forward? Who do you get that is as good or better? Because if you want to make a change, it's got to be as good or better.
No, listen, you're right. What you do is you obviously play Goff in his last season. And you hope Hendon Hooker develops into that quarterback you want. And if he doesn't, you draft another quarterback as well. And you prepare for life after Jared Goff. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Brad Holmes loves Jared Goff, and I think he's going to sign him. The other thing, too, is, and maybe kind of like I said, I think Dan Campbell is sabotaging Ben Johnson so he sticks around. Maybe a couple bad games isn't so bad for the contract coming up, eh?
So you think they're sabotaging the middle of their season? They're so confident they got the division locked up that they're going to say, you know what? Hey, let's play bad so that we can get Jared Goff for cheaper, and we'll have
we retain Ben Johnson because nobody else wants him. Now that, my friend, that is playing checkers. Actually playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. That's right.
Yeah.
That's the genius of this front office.
I'm not sure. I think you're playing tiddlywinks.
I play that often. I'm going to go home and play that. 248-539-97. How do you play tiddlywinks? That's with the little weird, like, you roll them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you win?
I don't know. You go home today. It's your homework assignment. Figure out tiddlywinks.
I kind of feel, just very quick PSA, with all the technology we have in society, I feel the tiddlywinks community is taking a big hit. I don't think many people are playing tiddlywinks anymore.
No.
Dare, get the kids together. Let's have a rousing game on tiddlywinks. It's fun to say, though. All right. 248-539-9797. We got stuff of Harbaugh and Day. We got Lions chatter. 97 won the ticket. All right, 9:36 in the Motor City. Stoney and Jansen rolls on. We did ask the question, who's got more pressure tomorrow? Is it Ryan Day? Is it Jim Harbaugh, despite the fact that he's not coaching? Now, Jim is not coaching from a helicopter, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes,
I
he
saw
will not
this.
be in the building.
Okay, I saw that was going to be in the Michigan airspace.
No, I don't believe so. He will not be hovering anywhere.
Where's he watching the game, you think? Just at home?
I mean, that Schembechler Hall is a stone's throw from the building. I would imagine maybe he'd be there watching at his office. Maybe he's at home. I don't know.
Let's go to Alec. You're on the ticket. What's going on, Alec?
Hey, guys. I can't argue against anybody that says that Ryan Day and Ohio State don't have more pressure on them, but I think it goes even another layer deeper of saying, would Ryan Day legitimately be looked at as needing to get fired if they lost to Michigan and Michigan pounds them again, say they win by 24 plus, and they run all over them again? Would they actually look at moving on from him? I feel like it's a tough dynamic. He loses 1, maybe 2 games a year. But losing to Sherrone Moore after, what a lot of people think this whole thing stems from Ohio State, and everything that goes along with that, I can't imagine that there'd be anybody else that has more pressure than Ryan Day and Ohio State. So that's my thoughts, and I'd be curious if you guys think there'd be any opportunity of him moving on if they get pounded again. But
I think the only way Ryan Day moves on is if it's Ryan Day's decision to move on. I don't think Ohio State's going to fire him. I think that would be crazy. And I also think it would be crazy because just of the timing of it. You're going to have a new athletic director. Theirs is retiring after this year. And I don't think he's going to want to fire the head football coach and make a hire giving the next athletic director somebody to inherit.
I agree with you. I don't think there's a chance, even if Michigan rolls them, that Ryan Day is getting fired.
No.
I mean, that's the only loss. Not to mention, Ohio State, nobody's obviously giving them this ability. They could go in and win tomorrow. The spread is down to 3 in some books, 3.5 most places. They have their offense is pretty damn impressive. They got the best offensive player on the field in Marvin Harrison. You got Travion Henderson that's healthy again. I do believe it's going to be a close game, and I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State comes out and is actually victorious. Now, I'll tell you this. All the people that are getting caught up in the Michigan hasn't looked good for the last 2 weeks thing, and I'm one of them. Like, I've thought it too. Didn't look great against Penn State. They still won. Couldn't pass protect. Didn't look great against Maryland. They still won. You got to go back to last year when they played Illinois, the second to last game of the season. They won 19-17. Blake Corum got hurt. We all questioned. We were all yelling, JJ can't throw the football. And then he went to Columbus. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 270 yards. So the same thing could have happened. I'm truly...
And they're at home.
They are at home. I keep changing my mind what I think is going to happen. I mean, John predicted victory.
You know what? I didn't ask you this question after you asked me.
I was very rude of you. I was waiting for you to ask me.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
very rude.
Now that we are in this position,
yes,
the spread is 3, and put aside the spread.
You got 3 or 3.5.
Okay.
The half point matters.
Okay. The hook.
Okay.
Put aside the spread.
Yes.
Who wins this game?
All right. So I believe. I'll say this in your presence. I believe the Buckeyes win the football game.
Why?
I do. I think they've been playing better football. I think their offense seems to be clicking and getting better. I think it's going to be the toughest offense Michigan is going to go against. Not to mention, I mean, obviously, like Ohio State's going to be, or Michigan's going to be the toughest team that Michigan goes, or Ohio State goes against. So that doesn't matter. But I think they've been playing better football. And even though I just said the same thing happened last year, JJ does not look the same without Jim Harbaugh. Furthermore, and you're going to poo-poo this, I can give you stats.
Don't put words in my mouth.
They don't look the same without Connor Stallions either. So I do believe that the Buckeyes win the football game, but damn, they got a lot of pressure on them.
They don't look the same without Connor Stallions.
They don't.
Okay, when did this whole thing...
Michigan State was the first game, and they smoked them 49-0. But to be fair, the Spartans were told they didn't even have to play in that game, because it was like days before Stallions got busted, right? So I'm not counting that one. You can feel free to count that one. Then they went on a bye week. then they haven't covered against Purdue. They haven't covered against Penn State. They haven't covered against Maryland. And I think each game they've looked worse and worse and worse. And defensively, John.
Covering has nothing to do with it.
Okay. Well, the spread is a byproduct of what you think is going to happen. But the other thing, too, is the first 8 games of the season, Michigan has allowed 57 total points. The last 3 games, they've allowed 58 total points.
Okay.
J.J. McCarthy has had 4 of his worst 5 games.
Is a better team than any of those eight opponents.
I do. But
okay, and they allowed 15 in that game.
Sure.
We're getting back to normalcy.
Okay.
All right? Instead of playing against Indiana or Nebraska or Rutgers or Bowling Green or UNLV or East Carolina, do you expect those teams to score many points at all?
J.J. McCarthy, when Stalions is not around, has had 4 of his worst 5 games at Michigan. Like, I do think, and I know Joe Klatt went on TV the other day and said, listen, the more you don't know about football, the more you believe that the cheating scandal actually helped. I would assume you probably agree with that. With that being said, I do think, and we're going to find out tomorrow, if they lose tomorrow or if they lose big tomorrow, I think the Connor Stalions thing was a factor. Now, Wojo got upset with me when I said it too.
Okay. You're allowed to have your opinion.
I am.
Yeah, and but I also think
not
that
according to my wife.
So, but everything can't all be true at the same time. There are some things that can't be true. Did he have an impact? And I've said this from the beginning. It was a minimal impact. In fact, CBS just came out with the fact that the NCAA was going to get rid of these rules
back in 21. Yeah.
And they actually used the term minimal impact. That was, they weren't quoting me. They were just, that was what was in the notes, is that it was a minimal impact, minimal competitive advantage is what they were saying, because you can get a lot of these things off of the
but
TV.
When you turn it,
I'm just okay. That's the NCAA.
Understood, but when you turn it into
but
the
then
ring
you look
that they
and you
did,
say East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota. We talked about the fact that their preseason schedule, their Big Ten schedule, which was given to them, they didn't set that one up, was terrible.
I agree.
Until they got to Penn State.
UNLV seems like a better win, but I hear you.
Oh, well, we're going to celebrate that win now?
No, I'm just saying it looks like a better win than originally thought.
Okay.
Yes.
But until you get to Penn State, who did they play that you would think they're a good team?
So you're saying that every team...
All the numbers that you just threw out there,
correct.
the fact that they have given up more points to Penn State and Maryland than they did in the previous, 8 games?
8 games. 8-3 is a pretty
large margin. Some of that has to do with the fact that, one, they were both on the road to Penn State and Maryland. Maryland's not a great team.
No.
But there was also
decent
that
offense.
team. Yeah, decent offense. So they're going to score some points. And the fact that it was the same week, the same game,
John,
that last year they took a field goal to beat Illinois, sandwiched between Penn State and Ohio State.
And they lost Blake Corum in that game as well. All I'm saying is they haven't looked the same. And coincidentally enough...
Well, they looked pretty damn good against Michigan State. They looked pretty damn good against Purdue. They went on the road and still were able to shut down
Purdue. Purdue moved the ball a little bit on them.
They scored 13 points.
Okay, still moved the ball more than normal teams did.
Okay.
John, all I'm saying is they haven't looked good the last couple games, and sorry, this is a big story, so you do wonder how much of an impact the little dude that had a disguise on the sideline at East Lansing had an effect.
We know that's him?
Do we know it's him? I'm pretty sure it's him.
I'm pretty sure it's him too, but we don't know it's him.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know it's him?
I don't know Connor. He's not taking my calls. Trust me, I've tried. I want to get him on the daily ticket.
Mac.
Yeah, could you imagine getting Connor Stalions on my podcast? Oh my God, that would make me. All I'm saying is, listen, tomorrow, let's say Ohio State rolls Michigan. Then do you give any credence to the fact that Connor Stalions had an impact?
Or the fact that they knew that Michigan had their signs last year.
Yeah, but they scouted Ohio State 8 times. So even if you're changing your signs, you know everything.
Wait. The whole thing is that they're changing their signs, so you don't know what their signs are.
Yeah, correct. But when you scout them every game for 8 times of the 12 that you play in, or the 11
are you saying that Ohio
play
State didn't scout Michigan? They didn't watch film on Michigan to know what they were doing?
So are you saying
if they changed the whole thing is the sign stealing?
Why do it then? Why put yourself in jeopardy? Why put your coach in jeopardy of getting suspended? Why do any? Why?
I agree. I would ask that question of Connor Stalions.
Network, because it worked. It helped, at least to a little bit. It
is
must
there
have
any
helped.
connection to Jim Harbaugh?
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Not being there?
No, any connection to the sign stealing to Jim Harbaugh?
No, not as of yet.
Okay.
There's not as of yet, but I mean, Chris Partridge, there wasn't a connection until there was a connection. We thought
and
Connor
they've also said that it wasn't the fact that he knew what was going on, that he tried to cover things up for him.
We thought Connor Stalions was doing this on his own, right? The whole lone wolf theory. And then we find out that Uncle T exists, who is apparently related to Mr. T. And he's funding the whole thing. Like, honestly, they did it because it helped in some regard. And we'll find out. And by the way, coincidentally enough, they haven't looked good the last 2 games. As good as they have when Stalions, with his fake mustache or not, has been around.
Okay, well, you could also give credence that they haven't looked as good because they played against better teams.
Understood.
They played on the road.
Understood.
They played without Jim Harbaugh.
So how much of an advantage do you think it would have given them then?
What?
The cheating.
Minimal. I've said that.
Okay. And again, we'll find out. I tell you, I don't know. But I think tomorrow is going to be a big litmus test, because even if it helped them or even if it didn't help them, if Michigan loses tomorrow, people are going to call them cheaters and saying they needed to cheat to beat the Buckeyes.
They're already calling them that.
Okay, well, that will continue.
Okay.
So 248-539-9797. The ticket text, the exact same number. If you want to chime on in, we got one more segment. Then a very happy Doug Karsh comes in because he only has to work like 2 hours and 15 minutes. No, wait.
No, that'll be 2 hours and 45 minutes.
45 minutes. And then I got to
Don't be late.
Back to. I was uncalled for. Maybe Connor Stalions.
Don't be late.
Because maybe Connor Stalions can host Red Wings hockey. He's not doing anything.
No, he's not.
That would be huge. I'll get him my key card. 97 won the ticket. All righty, last segment. Doug Karsh is going to be coming in here for the Karsh and Anderson extravaganza. You want to take a call or two? You want to talk about life? What do you want to do?
No, I'd rather talk about the Lions.
Let's go to Bernard. You're on the ticket. Hey, Bernard, how are you, pal?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Listen, I had a great Thanksgiving. I woke up this morning, turned the radio on, and I hear this guy, John. Where you get him from, man?
Hey, they just gave him to me.
I was born in Oak Park, Bernard. Then I went to Southfield. Then I ended up in West Bloomfield.
So did he.
Just a little bit on the Lions. Just a taste on Ohio State, Michigan. The Lions are going through what every team's going through when it's late in the season. Got injuries. Ragnow, Jonah's gone. You never know what Sue and those guys are dealing with on that line, and they're going through their little drought, so to speak. Just like San Francisco went through theirs a couple of weeks ago. Just like Miami's barely beating people over there. Everybody goes through it. We're going to be fine in Detroit, I believe. I think the Lions are going to come out of that and get a couple players back, and I think we're going to take off from there against New Orleans. I do. But as far as Ohio State's concerned, now, Jason, I don't know if you were there a couple of weeks ago when I called. I was the guy who went to prison, but people saying it was me who committed that murder.
Yeah.
You remember that call?
Yeah. Glad you're out.
That's the same way he is about Jim Harbaugh. He had to know. You know, he was there. He had to know. That's the same thing.
I didn't say that, Bernard. I said he has not been connected to it.
Well, most of you said between you and Valente, man, I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying?
But Bernard, like, listen, Jim got suspended for 3 games. I don't know. Yeah. I just read everything about this because I'm fascinated by the whole thing. I'm just curious how much it helps. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but I'm looking at the ticket tags. People think it's a hot take. So what are you going to do?
I think Michigan will win the game tomorrow. I think that they're not really coaching against the assistant coach. They're coaching against Michigan. Now, Jim Harbaugh has been with this team all week.
You're right.
And they've been dealing with Ohio State all year. So this game right here has nothing to do with the coach on the sideline. He knows exactly what to do and what Harbaugh wants him to do. That's all I had to say.
Bernard, thanks for calling.
Thanks, Bernard.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Want to go one more? How about Jim? You're on the ticket. Hey, Jimmy, what's going on, pal?
Hey, what's going on? Go Blue.
Go Blue.
So my whole thing is I've been a long-time Michigan fan since I was a baby. But when it comes down to it, I think it's going to be who cheated the best, to be honest. Both teams have done it. We know all teams are doing it. And I'm really worried about Ohio State tomorrow. I really am.
What worries you most about them?
Their receiving corps.
Yeah.
Our secondary, I mean, not too sure about it. Kind of like with the Lions. Our secondaries, like mid, really. And we can't hang on with them. But Jim Harbaugh and all that, it's a bunch of noise. I hope the kids just kind of block it out and they play a good game. That's all I really got to say about that.
Yep. I agree. I hope it comes down to the merits on the field.
Thank God it's almost here.
Yeah.
You guys will be, I mean, seriously, you guys can't wait, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the biggest game of the year. Every single year. Big Ten championship on the line, as it should be. Hold on. We got to bring you up.
My mic's not on.
Up there.
Oh, you sound fantastic now.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way, on the short show.
Yeah. I had no idea. What's this, 1 o'clock? And I'm like, that date's wrong. It says it's today. It must be 1 o'clock tomorrow. And I'm like, no, it's today.
It's like you won the lottery.
Well,
Anyway,
they're not even in Sweden anymore.
Yeah, right. It's so distracting because there's so much else going on. But this week, with Thursday off, a lot of cramming for Michigan, Ohio State took place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today I still got some work to do. And yeah, it's nothing else needs to be said. It's so much on the line.
It's amazing.
So much on the line.
It is so amazing. Like, my goodness. I can't even imagine, like, how much are tickets going for? Like, if I had a ticket, I could make a fortune.
Well, I don't exactly know what they're going for. I know I read an article that said it's going for record prices regarding this. And I think the bigger thing, well, I don't know necessarily the bigger thing, that's the impact on every individual. I'm curious what the TV ratings are going to be.
Oh, my God.
Because typically it's right 17, 18 million.
Yeah.
I think this goes north of 20.
Could you imagine if Harbaugh were coaching? It would be the most watched post-game handshake. We need to talk to Avant, too, about the post-game. Maybe hold off on the player, go out to the middle of the field. Although, I mean, Sharon probably won't. But anyway, yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, I don't know. We might not be able to air Sharon's post-game interview.
No, he's better now. He's better.
That's a good point.
He said, I heard an interview with you guys and him. He says his family's coming, so we can't swear anymore.
Yeah. Mom
that means they're not watching on TV, though.
Yeah.
Of course,
it's actually
if he swears, they'll hear about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what do you got today?
I think we'll start with a little Michigan, Ohio State. We obviously got that Lions thing.
That Lions thing. What you think of the pregame or the halftime show? John hated it. I just wondered what the guy behind it was doing.
Look, these are one of those deals where I'm like, is this boring or am I old? Because are they young? But then I asked my kids and they were like, yeah, it was kind of low energy.
Yeah.
So
low energy, low production.
It was the dude behind him. I'm telling. Well, it was the fake igloo too.
Well, and then it was in stark contrast with the show that happened at the halftime of the Dallas Commanders game.
By the way,
you can say whatever you want about Dolly, but it was a big show.
It was a big show, and she looked like she was hanging on to things so she didn't fall down.
Well, she's 77.
I know.
She's still rocking it.
I know.
My wife, I talked to my wife during the show. She's very, she doesn't believe anything about Dolly. She thinks it's all work, and she believes that it was all makeup. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm pretty confident there was a lot of makeup. There has been some work.
This just in.
Like you predicted Michigan to win.
Yes, I know. Breaking news.
All right, Doug Karsch coming up next. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Goodbye.
Friday indeed, Black Friday. Gators out today. It's the Carson Anderson program. And we have a relatively short show with Red Wing hockey this afternoon and a ton of stuff to talk about leading up to Red Wing hockey, including yesterday's Lions game, which is obviously about as disappointing as a Lions game has been in some time, given what the expectations were, the way this team has played, the way the season has gone. Rather unfortunate. And the question is, are cracks starting to show? Are cracks starting to show? We will get to that coming up here on the Carson Anderson program on 97.1 The Ticket. and delve into that a little bit more and hear from the individuals involved, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a college football day as well. Michigan State taking on Penn State down at Ford Field. Is certainly the season has not gone the way Spartan fans would have liked, but a chance to send the seniors out and probably Harlan Barnett out as head coach, as the acting head coach, the interim head coach, send him out on a high note. And I guess one of the questions I do have today for Spartan fans is, originally when this game was announced, the Ford Field game, I don't think it was met with much excitement or enthusiasm. I think it was mostly met with people were disappointed and weren't stoked about it. But now that it's here, I'm just wondering if you're feeling any better about it. Just playing down at Ford Field, giving up the home game, but getting to play in the NFL stadium. People kind of embraced it. Are they now looking forward to it? Is it something that maybe, just maybe, now that it's here, it's not the worst thing in the world? So Spartan fans, don't want to ignore you and your thoughts today. Michigan, Ohio State, though, on the marquee. That game is tomorrow. And look, I mentioned this on Wednesday's shows. We started to get into it in depth. I'm not particularly chesty about this one. I think this is two very good football teams. I don't know how they stack up against the rest of the country. I do think what happens when you watch your own team week in and week out, you become more acutely aware of their potential flaws, what their Achilles heel might be, and you start to get concerned about those things more and more as a fan base. And, I think Michigan fans are maybe a bit edgy about things like the run game. I'm not that worried about the defense. I know that Maryland kind of at times had their way with him, but Maryland's offense can be dangerous. Okay. Maryland's offense gave Ohio State problems this year. Maryland's offense gave Ohio State problems last year. So it's, you want to go out and you want to dominate every game and you feel good dominating every game, but it's probably not reality. One of the big storylines and something that we're going to be keeping, and we'll be on the air at 9 a.m. with the tailgate show, 11 a.m. for the pregame. But one of the big storylines and something we'll keep our eye on is, how does J.J. McCarthy look in warmups? He got pretty gimpy in that Penn State game. He says he's fine. But he is, last week against Maryland, he ran the ball once. And I don't know, I think one of the things to keep in mind is it's not that JJ needs to be part of the run game with 15, 20 carries. The threat of JJ running the ball, though, is one that can open things up for the running backs. If there's a threat that the quarterback keeps the ball in the zone read, that's one thing. But maybe more importantly is his mobility in the pass game to create more time. I think JJ is exceptionally good throwing on the run. And if there are legitimate concerns, and there are some concerns, we'll see, how they do tomorrow, obviously, but there are concerns about the offensive line's ability to protect the passer. Last couple of weeks has been a bit of an issue. Now, I don't like Chop Robinson may be the best edge rusher in the Big Ten, Penn State. And as that game went on, it looked like Michigan's adjustment to that was, well, he can't sack the quarterback if we don't throw the ball. But anyway, if Michigan can protect JJ, they'll be in great shape. If they can't protect JJ and JJ is closer to or at 100%, they can overcome that. If they can't protect JJ and JJ is truly slowed by this injury, this undisclosed injury, which appears to be a lower body injury that might impact his mobility, that could be a formula that's tough to overcome. And Ohio State has some legitimate athletes up front. One that can dominate a game in JT Tuimoloau. But at the end of the day, that's one that looms very, very large. That matchup, when Michigan is goes to the throw game, can they protect JJ? And if they can't, how mobile is he? And then there's ability to adjust on the fly. Like Sherrone Moore, I think, has done a very good job as the acting head coach. And they collectively as a staff, they make all the decisions that they think they're going to make pregame. It's a whole collaborative effort. But, Sharon has to process in real time, interpret the information that they're getting back, and make split-second decisions, which he hasn't done it. He's been the head coach for 3 games here. One in the beginning of the year, and then the 2 most recent games. How much of an impact does that have? Because that's Jim Harbaugh's job. That's Jim Harbaugh's role, and you can have all these decisions laid out ahead of time, but that doesn't mean there aren't split-second decisions that you have to make. So that's kind of an unknown in a big game, how it plays itself out. There'll be no shortage of preparation. There'll be no shortage of preparation. Another fascinating matchup is when Ohio State goes to the throw game. I think you're talking about a great group of wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the marquee, but between Emeka Ibuka and Cade Stover, there are a couple of very good receiving options there for Kyle McCord. And I really, really like Michigan's secondary, led by Will Johnson. He's on the marquee, but Josh Wallace and Mikey Samristil have had very good years. And then sort of one of the unknowns, it's that I'm sure there's a curiosity factor from a Buckeye standpoint as well, is how does Kyle McCord react in this game, in this environment? He's clearly very talented, and he's gotten better as the season has gone on. The big notch in his belt was going into South Bend and winning, and that's a big test. He made some big-time throws in that game. Might have got away with one as well, but hey, that's part of it. JJ's gotten away with some too. But how does he react to this environment, to this game? Is it's big. And the approach to the game is something I've heard the players talk about this week, which is you can't peak too early. Like, you have to build to that crescendo. It takes some patience and some discipline. They talked about practices being competitive, but not combative. So that, you got to, and given the way that's gone the last couple of years, whatever they have done preparing for the game to get ready, the players through the week seem to have peaked on those Saturdays. So maybe, just maybe they've got that down, but we shall see. All right, 248-539-9797. Michigan fans, you want to get into it a little bit. Spartan fans, we asked you warming up to the Ford Field thing? It was kind of met with a collective thud, was my sense, hearing from fans. But now that it's here, is it kind of cool? You kind of like it? Is there any saving grace to it? 248-539-9797. Gators out today. It's Carson Anderson. We'll get to some Lions stuff a little bit later on here on 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Hirsch, Gator out today. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Not ruined by the professional football product that we saw. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. Of course, it's open line, so if you want to go there. 248-539-9797. Open the show talking a little Michigan, Ohio State. And a feeling towards this game, a little ready, set, puke, right? 2 undefeated teams, back-to-back years, Big Ten East, playoff spot, probably on the line here. The loser could still get in with a ton of help. Obviously happened last year. The winner still has to go to the Big Ten title game and take care of Iowa, who plays this afternoon. And I don't know if you saw that game, the over-under total has now dropped to 26.5. 26.5. Which is incredible. But watching Nebraska the last few weeks, they're down to their third quarterback. Chuba Hubbard got in that game against, Chuba Purdy, Brock Purdy's little brother, transfer from Florida State, is now quarterbacking Nebraska. They had the Sims kid, the transfer from Georgia Tech. Then they had Heinrich Harburg come in, the Nebraska native, and now through injuries and turnover problems, it's Chuba Purdy in there to Chuba Purdy. I don't know how it's pronounced, but either way, he is he quarterbacked Nebraska last week at Wisconsin, and Iowa's offensive problems have been well documented. I've already made the change with Brian Ferentz, so and they play great defense, but suffice to say, sidetrack. The winner of the game today or tomorrow still has to take care of Iowa in the Big Ten title game. Another thing that I haven't mentioned, now we did talk about the health of JJ, so we'll be keeping an eye on him during pregame warmups tomorrow. Also, be keeping an eye on Ladarius Henderson, the starting left tackle, who did not make the trip to Maryland. And again, all these guys all week long, the word out of Schembechler Hall is they're fine. They'll be okay. And that's fine and dandy. You kind of want to be able to confirm all that in warmups. Ladarius Henderson did not make the trip to Maryland with an undisclosed injury. Then you've got Miles Hinton, who got the start. When he got hurt in that game against Maryland, they then went to Trente Jones at right tackle, moved Carson Barnhart over to left tackle, the veteran who can play anywhere. But the more you get down on the depth chart, obviously those guys are on the depth chart for a reason. So there's two things about this. Again, the Miles Hinton injury looked rather serious. If Ladarius Henderson can go and Miles Hinton can go, that brings something else back into play that wasn't in play in the Maryland game, and that's the mammoth personnel, which is something that Michigan went to in the game against Penn State, where they just put 7 offensive linemen on the field, and they actually ran the ball reasonably well. So they didn't have their guys, didn't go mammoth personnel against Maryland. They can do it. They can do it if they get those guys back, if they so choose, against Ohio State. And then, of course, there's Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson's been JJ's go-to guy all season long. When he left, Colston Loveland seemed to become that guy, although Cornelius Johnson had a pretty good game, and Cornelius Johnson had a very good game last year down in Columbus. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays itself out. But certainly, here's the one thing, though. I'll just say this before we get to your phone calls. TreVeyon Henderson and Ohio State's running game has come on. Michigan hasn't had a healthy Blake Corum, their lead back, either of the last 2 years against Ohio State. Corum and Haskins were a 1-2 punch 2 years ago. Haskins had a day. Blake played briefly, but re-aggravated an injury 2 years ago. Last year, he had the knee. He gave it a go. It was inspirational. I think he had 2 carries at the beginning of the game, but you could tell he couldn't do much with that knee. Sat out the rest of the game, came back for victory formation when Michigan knelt on the ball to finish off the Buckeyes. Both Henderson and Corum healthy for this game. The last 2 seasons, Michigan relied on its run game against Ohio State to put it away. This season's run game hasn't been as gaudy and hasn't put up as big a numbers for Michigan. But in this game, on this day, can they buckle up the chin straps and run the ball when necessary against the Buckeyes? Can they do it? Because that's been a huge difference the last 2 years. Huge difference. They get into the fourth quarter and there was no need to throw. Handed off, big chunk yardage. They did it 2 years ago, and then obviously last year it got way out of hand with a 75 and 85-yard touchdown run. So, point is, that is a question, is which team is going to run the ball tomorrow. I think kind of in a gritty way, all things considered, these last 2 games on the ground for Michigan have been pretty good, given Penn State's defense and the whole 32 straight runs thing. It's not like they ran for 400 yards, but they ran enough against a quality run defense. Then last week, Donovan Edwards started to look like himself again, which part of that seems to be everything doesn't have to go to the house. Put your foot in the ground, and when there's 4 yards there, take the 4 yards. Instead of sort of waiting for everything to part like the Red Seas, like happened last year in Columbus. So we'll see how it plays itself out. But all factors, 248-539-9797 for phone calls and feedback. Let's get to your calls as we open up the phone lines and we go to Joey. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Joey.
Hello there.
How are you,
I'm
sir?
going to make 2 quick points, then I'll get off the air and let you hear your comments. My first point is I'm in Milwaukee, so I dread Monday because I know all my fellow coworkers are just going to talk a bunch of smack after that performance yesterday. But my main point is, do you think if Jared Goff plays another bad game like he's had the last 2 weekends, that there might be talk of possibly bringing in Teddy Bridgewater? And I'll take your
well, hold on. Would you do it?
I mean, I wouldn't want to. That wouldn't be ideal, but it's like, how many times can you keep throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball? And it's like we're at this point in our season where we can either go up or go down. And I could see this possibly being one of those scenarios where they're like, yeah, we don't want to risk the season. Maybe we need to bring in Bridgewater.
Well, I will say this. First of all, you're 100% correct. You cannot keep turning the football over. But Goff has ample examples of not turning the football over. He went 380 whatever passes it was without throwing an interception. The protection has to be better. I don't know what the hell happened yesterday. When we'll get into a little bit more depth, but Joey, I really don't see a scenario where A, Goff keeps turning it over like this, and B, he gets replaced.
Okay, I hope you're right. And have a good weekend, and I look forward to hearing you call the game. Go Blue.
Joey, thanks. I appreciate it. 248-539-9797. I mean, am I wrong? Goff he hasn't been peak Jared Goff. He hasn't been. But he settled down for a stretch of about 18 games where turnovers weren't an issue, operating at a high level of proficiency. And his success and failure, a lot of it has to do with playing behind this O-line. And he was under heavy duress yesterday, like a disturbing degree of duress. But we'll get more into the Lions coming up. 248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback. Carson Anderson, Gator out today, 97.1. Doug Harsh, Gator out today. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Lions didn't help. Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. Talking about keys to the game. Your thoughts on it? 248-539-9797. I'll be on the air. We will be on the air with the broadcast starting at 9 a.m. for the tailgate show with the crew. And I'm on with Jansen, part of that show. And then 11 a.m. pregame coverage starts. Kickoff 12:14 for Michigan and Ohio State. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. We go to Dante. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, Dante?
Hey, Doug. Happy day after Thanksgiving.
You too,
How are
friend.
you? Hey, so Goff is a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but he lives and dies by the strength of an offensive line. He did it in L.A. He does it here. And my biggest fear is going into later in the season, going into a playoff run. He, as good as he is, I mean, he throws lasers. He checks his receivers down, but it only happens when that line holds. Do we look for a quarterback for the future that's able to scramble? I'll take away a little bit of accuracy and checking down if we have a quarterback that when the pocket collapses can make something happen, can get that. He runs like a sloth. Love him to death, but he's not fast. And the way he held that ball out like a dead chicken when he was running, I knew it was coming out. As soon as that defender, they're going to smack it out. But, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I like him. I love him as a quarterback.
So,
He's
look,
a good quarterback.
I mean, look, you want to have parts that work together. What Goff, I agree that Jared Goff behind this O-line with this offensive coordinator has spent a good portion of this season operating at a high level of efficiency. They have been very, very good, one of the best offenses in the NFL. If the choices are scrap Goff and look for a mobile quarterback or try to continue to do what you've been doing around this offensive line, I'll try to continue doing what they've been doing. I'm not going back to square one with the quarterback because, I mean, yesterday, Dante, was a variety of failures, which included protections. I don't think receivers were getting open. I mean, because Goff would hit the back step of his drop. You can almost tell when you're watching on television if a pass is going to be complete before you even see the receiver. Because when he hits the back step of his drop and just delivers on time, it's going to be a completion. And he would hit the back step of his drop, 5-step drop, 7-step drop, doesn't matter what it is. And you could see he'd have to look off that first receiver. And for some reason yesterday, against a banged-up secondary, guys weren't getting open. He had to look to his second and third options. And inexplainable to me, Dante, is how they didn't protect him better. I mean,
Sorzal is a rookie.
Yep.
He's having ups and downs. I mean, when oh God, help me out. When Ragnow went down holding his knee, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that was a scary moment. That was not
and
cool.
I'm like, he's got that permanent toe issue. Glasgow is doing great. Jonah Jackson, love him to death, but he's like a Swift. Is he going to be a guy that can't stay healthy? You know, so it's one of those things. Yes, they lost as a whole team yesterday. I mean, it was and to tell you the truth, you have probably the most dynamic, fastest duo backs in the league, and I just don't understand why Brad Johnson didn't try to pull the tight ends, do the swipe around blocking to try to get either Gibbs or Montgomery outside. They didn't do it once. I mean, they were losing so bad yesterday. I was like, just pull the rabbit tricks right now. I don't care.
It was Dante. It was a very out of character game. Now, that doesn't mean you don't take a long look in the mirror. Like they have won, they've won 2 in a row going into that. But the game against the Chargers, the game against the Bears, both could have gone either direction, clearly. You give them credit for winning, all right? You play to win the games. It's hard to win games in the NFL. I don't take away wins. You don't discredit them. But there are some things here that need to get cleaned up. They've got 10 days to do it. The one thing I'm trying not to panic about, okay, because that I don't think it's a crack in the armor, is the offensive line. Trying not to panic about the offensive line. They have been very, very, very good all season long. yesterday, the combination of whether it was receivers not getting open or Goff not seeing them, they did show a couple of replays where guys ran the wrong routes. In fact, oddly, at halftime, the halftime report, which typically doesn't offer up a ton of insight because coaches don't say much, but Dan Campbell said one thing I didn't understand. He said, we're getting a little long with the snaps. And I'm like, what does that mean? And we're running some wrong routes. And I'm like, running wrong routes? I think it was Aaron Andrews that had that report. And I'm like, well, that would explain to a degree some of the struggles in the pass game and why Goff wasn't going to his first option. But it was to your first question about got to get a mobile quarterback. They've got it. I'm still going to say they've got a great offensive line. So why adjust to what I don't think will be a repetitive problem? But yesterday was so out of character and weird that it's hard to dismiss it. I'm not dismissing it, but long look in the mirror, figure out what was wrong. I would bet on this offensive line bouncing back. I would bet on Goff bouncing back. But yesterday was bad. 248-539-9797. Tommy's on a cell and he's next. Hi, Tommy.
Hey, Doug. How you doing? Happy Leftovers Friday.
Oh, I got leftovers with me today.
Yeah, it's like the second best day of the year, isn't it?
That's pretty good.
Anyway, Michigan, Ohio State. I think this could be one of those games where it's like it's going to come down to like special teams and whoever controls the field position game. You know, like if we can keep burying them deep, you know, win the field position and give yourself maybe a short field here and there, and of course turnovers. But I still believe, and I was talking to Gator earlier this week, and I said, you know, when's the last time Michigan ran a punt return back for a touchdown in a big game? We had to go back to Charles Woodson in 1997. And, Doug, I'm going to make a bold prediction right now if I can.
Okay.
I'm going to say I got a feeling Michigan's going to take one back for a touchdown.
Interesting. So Jake Thaw or Tyler Morris takes one to the house?
Yep, a punt return. Yep. Probably, or possibly a kickoff return. Probably a punt return. And, yeah, we're due. And like I said, you know, control the field position. Don't give them short fields, and we should be okay.
So both teams, their punters are very similar. Tommy Doman and Jesse Mirko for Ohio State. They both have done a decent job with distance and getting the ball inside the 20. Doman is either second, he's either first or second, I'll have to check before the game tomorrow, in the country in hang time, which is great for coverage, right? Your guys get down the field, doesn't get much of an opportunity for a return. So Doman's punt last week at Maryland was artistic. I mean, that ball checked up like a PGA Tour golfer on the 1 yard line at a critical time in the game where Maryland had a chance to tie the game. It was a tie the game or take the lead. I don't remember the exact score, but it was, you know, they had the football. There was some premium on that drive, and they were looking at a 98-yard field. And, you know, advantage defense there. It obviously led to the safety. So, yeah, it's a good sign. Special teams can play a huge, huge role. That's for sure. And Doman's been really good. The return game, look, the primary thing with the return game that, you know, the more and more I'm around is your guys got to catch the ball. Your guys have to be able to catch the ball. And do they got something up their sleeve in the return game? I don't know. Samaj Morgan in kick returns. Kick returns almost don't matter anymore because just about everything's a touchback. But yeah, it could be a big part of tomorrow's game. Field position, pinning people deep, giving them long fields. 248-539-9797. More of your phone calls and feedback coming up. Here are some of the texts we are getting from an unnamed texter. Doug, I saw Nebraska, Iowa's over-under at 24.5 on FanDuel last night. I saw it at 26.5. I just checked. It's now 25.5. Black Friday, traditional. Nebraska-Iowa game kicks off at noon. And buckle up. Unnamed texter, I think Michigan-Ohio State game, and sorry to use a cliche, will be decided in the trenches. It's not a coincidence that the past 16 winners won the ground game battle. If Ohio State stops the run, I'm very concerned about Michigan's chances of winning this game because I don't think their O-line will hold up to the edge rushers of Ohio State this year. It's a lot to prove. Hopefully they are healthy. 248-539-9797. Coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll hear from Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Some big picture comments about where this team is and what the problems might be in the 11 o'clock hour here on Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Harshgater out today. I mean, there's two huge topics. There's the Lions yesterday, and there's Michigan, Ohio State. So take it where you want. So we've got open lines at 248-539-9797. We do have other things to get to. Spartan fans, how you feeling about this Ford Field game now? Like at first, I think it was met sort of, I don't know if it was well received initially, but now that we're here, maybe people are embracing it a little bit more. Sometimes you get to the moment, you're like, this is actually kind of cool. But I'm intrigued. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. We go to Mike. You're next on 97.1. Hi, Mike.
Hello?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I coach high school football.
I'm having problems hearing you, Mike. I don't know if you could talk a little bit more into the phone. Sorry.
Okay, I'm a high school football coach.
Okay.
And, hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, and I'm mostly responsible for quarterbacks. And what I'm thinking is whoever the quarterback coach is, Tel Goff, he's a good quarterback. But my problem with him is he's not a running quarterback. He can't scramble once he's out of that pocket. Don't look downfield, tuck that ball, and run and live to get another play. He's not. Once he get out the pocket, he's not the type of quarterback can run and see. I mean, some quarterbacks can run and look downfield and so on. He's not the one. And once you get him out of that pocket, what Goff needs to do is just tuck that ball and get 2-3 extra yards and live to get another play, because turnovers what kills everybody on every quarterback when you're playing like that. And I know, as my quarterbacks, I know the weak ones, and I know the strongest ones, and I know the positions. I got some can stay in the pocket and throw. And I got some, I tell them, once you're out the pocket and you're running, tuck the ball and get 2-3 yards and save it for another play. So it's not all his fault. To me, it's just a little bit of bad coaching, too.
Well, I mean, if it's bad coaching, bad execution, I'm not sure. The one thing about the two Goff turnovers, the two Goff fumbles, I should say, the one where he got hit where he was releasing the football, you could find culpability other than the quarterback on that one. But the second one where he was scrambling, he's got to tuck that ball under, and I'm sure he knows this. Like, Jared Goff probably appreciates all the advice that everybody's going to give him, and I'm sure he knows he's got to tuck that ball away and not have it. Not have it. He's never going to go and make plays with his feet. It's just he is what he is, and it's worked.
Right.
Because
that's all I was saying. He needs to just stay in what he's strong at, And without the turnovers, we win every game. Both of those games we win easy without the turnovers.
Yeah. But that was a game in which he had unprecedented, for him in this season, unprecedented pressure. Like, there are so many failures offensively yesterday, and Ben Johnson's a great offensive coordinator, and Mark Brunell's a good quarterback coach. He had appears, and he might be the guy. It might be JT Barrett, who's an assistant offensive coordinator coach. They have a passing game coordinator. So whoever it is needs to talk. It's probably Brunell about tucking that football away, and he was kind of in the process of doing that, but it's just got to happen quicker on that second fumble. But the fact is that was a game that I don't think the O-line played well, and I don't think the receivers played well. I don't remember a game where the combination of Goff not being able to go to his first option, coupled with not protecting the quarterback, that's a brutal formula. If his first option isn't open and he doesn't have time to work his way through his progressions, you're not going to win very many football games. Or at least if you are, it's not going to be because the offense does much. And I just kept waiting for, okay, they'll get better. And they never really did. Goff was under heavy duress, which you just can't afford to be in this offense with his skill set. If your quarterback's Lamar Jackson, you can get away with pressure. Okay? And Jared Goff's skill set is exceptionally good for what this offense has been able to provide him and what they ask him to do. But when you take away protection, you take away guys getting open, that's not going to work. So they got to figure out whatever it is that needs to get figured out. Because it feels like Jamison Williams is coming on. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are still great options. I would bet on this offense being fine long term. Yesterday, it was a collective breakdown. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Keith here next on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Keith.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. I was at the game yesterday. I was at the parade first and then the game. The parade was electrifying with the fans just over the top with Go Lions. I mean, it was a great feeling going into the stadium. We kind of lost all that enthusiasm after the first touchdown. But let me tell you, we know we can't win them all. 8-3, we're going to come back. We're going to be okay. We got a lot of issues. They'll take care of those problems. I guarantee you they will take care of them. And at the end of the season, we're all going to be happy.
Well,
I believe that.
It's a rough patch. And I know that now it's funny. You lose this game and the scrutiny on the two previous wins gets greater because people will – I know how this works. People will say there were signs that this was coming against the Chargers and the Bears. And yet you can't – I don't think you should do that. They're not a perfect team.
Yeah,
there are no perfect teams. And you just got to overcome stuff.
We're going to get better. The negativity, forget about it. Go home. Kiss your grandma, have a piece of pumpkin pie, and let them do their business. They will take care of it. Believe me. Okay. I just have total confidence in Campbell, our offense. Our defense needs a little help, but we'll get there.
Hey, thanks for the call, Keith. 248-539-9797. Here's more feedback coming in via ticket text, and you can text us at the same number. Please remember to sign your text so we can give you credit. But this from an unnamed texter. Goff looks like he's running through cement. Dude needs to just not run and go to the ground. He has no clue how to slide properly. I mean, look, I don't want him to give up on scrambling. You know what's better than 2nd and 16? 2nd and 8. Okay. Don't just turtle. If you can get a couple yards, get a couple yards. I mean, this is the National Football League. I don't think you just go to the ground. You just got to do a better job of ball security. Look, the one fumble when he was throwing in his motion when he got hit, that was a collective breakdown. The second one, again, it was also a breakdown. He had to run because either guys weren't open, guys ran the wrong routes, whatever it was. Pocket was collapsing. But he's just got to tuck the ball there. He's got to do a better job of tucking the football. And I'm sure he knows it. Like, there's no way Jared Goff's driving around today, here's me, and goes, oh, yeah. No, he knows it. Unnamed texter, amazing how many calls are about Goff and the Lions' top 3 offense versus this historically bad type of defense the last 3 games. I mean, more of that, really. I mean, probably because the offense was below the expectation. The offense was so far below the expectation. I think that might be a big part of this, is people aren't shocked that the defense wasn't great, but they find themselves, when the offense plays the way that they did and has as many problems as they did, it's so far below expectation that people are really surprised. Another one here. It's always about the O-line. Come on, if you don't have time, it's over, no matter who the quarterback is. That's from an unnamed texter. Well, some teams more than others. And this team is one of those teams. With this team, it's all predicated on having an elite group up front. And they're capable of it. Now, they're banged up a little bit, but they've shown that they could do it with backups in there all season long. What happened yesterday was so out of character from a protection standpoint. I was surprised. I was surprised that they didn't have more success throwing the ball, given the issues that they had in the secondary with health. The Packers, they had 3 starters out. How guys weren't running open, how Goff wasn't just hitting that back step of his drop and delivering on time and going right down the field, I don't get. Do not get. Not a coach. But that didn't make sense to me. Unnamed texter, with everything the quarterback did bad and with everything the offensive line did terrible, if the coach does not call a play to go for it on 4th down in their own territory, the Lions probably have an opportunity to win the game. Dan Campbell took some culpability for all that when it was all said and done. And what were they, 0-5? I think it was 0-5 on fourth down. 248-539-9797. Next text. Over the next 6 games, I think the Lions go 3-3 to finish the season 11-6. I mean, it's not the way you want to go into the postseason. 11-6 would probably win the division. And yet it's would feel like a bit of a disappointment given the 8-2 start. But I mean, look, there's 6 games to go. They got a 2-game lead in the division. Winning the division is of utmost importance. The only way they'd lose the division under those circumstances is if the Vikings went 5-1 and swept the Lions, which is not impossible. I mean, if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm talking about going 5-1 and sweeping the Lions. 248-539-9797. Back to your phone calls. Next hour, we'll hear a little bit from Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, Michigan, Ohio State. We got Lions yesterday. Michigan State fans, you warming up to this Ford Field thing at all? It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Gator out today. Doug Carr's flying solo. Two huge topics. Obviously, the Lions game yesterday, Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. Taking your phone calls on both. In the meantime, it's open line, so anything on your mind, fair game. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your phone calls. We got a Brian on a cell. You're on 97.1. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
Doing good.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's Michigan game. I went back and watched last year's game versus Ohio State, and something really struck me, and that is their first 3 touchdowns by Michigan were all big plays. There was a 69-yard pass play, a 75-yard pass play, and a 45-yard pass play. Yep. And Ohio State seems committed this year to not giving up the big plays.
One play over 50 yards allowed all year.
Yeah, how do you think that changes this game this year?
I think it's a lower scoring game. I mean, I think both teams, both teams defensively, I respect the hell out of Ohio State's defense. I think Michigan's defense is the strength of the team. I don't know, why the Michigan run game hasn't been just a absolute dominant run game. The funny thing is it's been good, but it's so far below, I think, what the expectation was. Maybe the expectation wasn't realistic. But it's not. I mean, it's not a bad rushing attack. It's just not. They're third in the Big Ten in rushing, so it's not like it's a problem. It's better than Ohio State statistically, and yet I think it's a low scoring game. To answer your question, I think that this year's game is much more like a 21-17, 21-16 kind of game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The other thing is, I get this sense that last year Ryan Day wanted to beat Michigan badly at home and just destroy them, and that seemed to be sort of his game plan. This year, I get the sense he wants to go in with the mindset of just win the damn game, which means he calls the game a little differently once again to the low-scoring game and relies on his defense to win this game for him. In a low-scoring game. What do you think of that?
Well, last year he wanted to hang 100 on him, remember? And So, look, this game, because of all the backdrop, the espionage, the finger pointing, you did this to us, you did that to us, the coaches' feelings towards one another. I mean, I don't know that the want to has ever been higher. It's the same stakes that we've seen before, and in a weird way, it's like this time it's personal. And so, there's handling the emotions, channeling the emotions. The fact that Michigan has played 2 games without the head coach now, they're kind of used to that. They've done what is smart. I mean, what you would do, anybody would do it, is to try and turn that into as much of a positive as you can, as a motivating factor, as bulletin board stuff, however you want to do it. That's what you should do, okay? There's also something else. Like, if they win this game, they go to Indy and they get Jim Harbaugh back. And the kids love him. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays itself out. I really don't have a great feel for what direction this is going to go, other than I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. 248-539-9797. Back to your open line calls. We're going to Randy. You're next on 97.1. Hi, Randy.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, great. I wish I could say I was doing better, but yesterday a total embarrassment on the Lions. Safeties and defensive backs. It was embarrassing. You knew from the Packers' first drive that, it's going to be a tough game, and it was basically over by the end of the quarter. So I don't know what happened to those guys, but they were completely outplayed on the long ball.
It was such a collective breakdown on so many fronts. I don't know what the hell happened either, Randy, because in the back of my mind, I'm going, did we watch a star get born yesterday in Jordan Love? Or was the Lions defense that bad? Because Jordan Love was so good. He was so good. And delivering the football into small windows, tight windows, making all of the throws. And I that's my nightmare scenario, and I've talked about it forever, and I'm particularly sensitive to Green Bay handing the torch to the next great quarterback after having to deal with Favre and Rodgers for the last 3 decades. I don't want it to happen again. He looked so damn good yesterday. And secondary, no pass rush. The pass rush was pathetic. And again, collective breakdown on so many levels for this Lions team. I don't know what else can be said. Is it a yuck, throw it in the garbage and just move to the next game? Or is it indicative of cracks that are starting to expose themselves?
Well, I don't think they're as bad as they looked, but I'll tell you this. Green Bay's found their next quarterback. And he looks like a good one. And the difference between him and Goff is when everything goes to hell, he takes off and runs with the ball where Goff will just die.
Well, I'm not sure I'm ready to say Green Bay's found their next quarterback, okay? I asked the question, was a star born? I think the Lions defense, they need to sit down and have a long talk with Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn either needs to come up with solutions. Dan Campbell needs to come up with solutions. Because what we've seen the last few weeks is somebody called it earlier. This looks like the beginning of the 2022 season defensively. 248-539-9797. Matt is next on 97.1. Hi, Matt.
Hey, happy Thursday, Doug. Or Friday. I don't even know what day it is.
It is Friday. It's Friday.
Both the Wolverines and the Lions, it comes down to their offensive line, it seems. And, I've seen grandmas get through Ann Arbor traffic circles easier than it's been, or harder than it's been getting around Carson Barnhart the last couple of weeks. He's not even getting his hands on some of these guys that are literally walking around him. So, you said, he's been good. I don't know what I've been watching versus what you've been watching, but against Penn State, he almost got JJ killed single-handedly. Last week, it wasn't any better against Maryland, and now they have to do this mammoth protection just to keep those guys alive. And
hold on. They went to Mammoth, and all they did was run.
Right, but they had to because they couldn't even spend a second in the pocket because they couldn't build a pocket because, again, he's literally like ushering people to the backfield.
I think, honestly, I don't think it had anything to do with the pass game because they only tried to throw it once, and it was the PI. And I'm not even sure that was out of Mammoth personnel. I have to go back and look. I think they went to it because they thought it would be effective on the ground. But look, hold on. Last couple of weeks, yes, there has been some issues. He's had a decent season. It's just at the end of the day, they're going to have to be better in pass protection, especially if JJ is slowed in any way. Because if they aren't, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, but now the rubber's hitting the road, right? We're not playing Nevada and Indiana anymore. Now is the season, and to the same point with the Lions, like. Any quarterback should be serviceable, if not good, against the offensive line we're putting together. So I feel like Jared Goff has our season and a $40 million annual salary on the line next week against the Saints because this is 2 weeks in a row. He's pretty much poofed on the bed between his play, throwing the ball to the other team, dropping the ball. And I know the Sewell and Decker didn't really help, especially in those fourth downs, but he has not shown very good the last 2 weeks, and it's really getting down to crunch time for both of these teams, and it's time for us to step up, or else I don't know, it doesn't feel good, is kind of what I'm thinking.
I got to tell you, overall, the offensive line performance yesterday by the Lions, and the wide receivers not getting open against three backups in the secondary makes no sense to me. I don't know how that happened, and I'm not sure it would happen again. Like I want to, if I'm going to pick like recurring themes that are bothering me, to be honest with you, it's the defense going from serviceable to not in the last 3 weeks, more so than the offensive line or Goff. Now the offensive line and Goff are further below the expectation, but I can see them being fine long term. The defense is a little bit of worst fears being realized. Now, they could use some guys back. C.J. Gardner-Johnson in coming weeks. You hope James Houston. Maybe it's fool's gold to count on that. Brad Holmes took a calculated risk, perhaps, if he turned down deals to help the pass rush. If he did. And we don't know what deals were available to him, what deals he tried to strike, what players he went after. But his calculated risk was, if he turned down deals, I would rather generate pass rush from within than pay the price, which we don't know what it was, that I'm being asked to get an edge rusher. And I hope that that's not a mistake. But I think there were 3 QB hits of Jordan Love yesterday. 3. Goff got hit 12 times. That's a problem. And again, we don't know what deals were offered. We don't know what was on the table. We don't know what he said no to. But the fact of the matter is, you give most NFL quarterbacks as much time as Jordan Love had, I'm not sure you're not in trouble anyway. 248-539-9797. It's Black Friday at Twin Peaks. Your favorite Twin Peaks girls are there. They're all decked out, waiting for you. And while you're out shopping, let's be honest, while your wives or girlfriends are out shopping, you can escape over to Twin Peaks. And now's a big part of the holiday weekend with a day away from the biggest game of the year. Undefeated matchup in Ann Arbor. Big Ten championship on the line. Huge. If you're deciding where to watch it, no better place than Twin Peaks. They're opening the doors early, 10 a.m. All fans have a perfect opportunity to lock up those front row seats to all the action, so get there early. If you're there between 10 and 11, you have a special chance to win a Michigan jersey. Other raffle items include coolers, koozies, and other swag. Enjoy the $15 Miller or Coors Light buckets. If you're not at the big house, there's no better place to be to enjoy the Michigan game than your local Twin Peaks. There's games today as well. And they got scratch food, house smoked meats, 29-degree draft beers, high-level craft cocktails, wall-to-wall TVs. So it seals the deal for any football fan. The fun is happening all day today. And the super middleweight fight coming up as well. No cover, grab the crew, and get set for one of the best days of the sports year. Twin Peaks Eats, Drinks, and Scenic Views. To find a location nearest you and to get all the details on their special offers, go to TwinPeaksRestaurant.com. It's TwinPeaksRestaurant.com. Here we go. Dan writes in, I have felt like this is fool's gold all year long and still do. Look, they haven't played their best. They haven't played their best. And it's not like they've played better opponents here. They aren't playing as well. And they still have won 2 of these 3 games that they haven't played their best. This feels, I cut it short of a crisis. I don't think it's a crisis. But I think it's a big challenge for Dan Campbell and this coaching staff to figure this out. Got to figure it out. Did I expect to get some people pulling the plug or never bought in kind of response today? Yeah, but weird thing is how many times we've said they're not going to go undefeated the rest of the way. And yet I feel like people seem surprised then when they lose. And yeah, when you lose, you look bad. When you lose, things go wrong. When you lose, many of the mistakes you make turn out to be, accumulation of them turn out to be fatal. And, you know, they were going to lose a game. Now, it sucks that it's a game they're favored in at home where everybody's got their eyes on them. And it feels like, it suddenly feels like, you know, it's, I don't want to say panic, but I think people are panicking. I think some people are panicking. Of course, if you say you never believed in them in the first place, then you're not panicking. You're seeing what you expected to see. Michigan, Ohio State, talking about keys to that game as well, as we've got open lines and plenty of people want to talk. Gator out today. It's the Carson Anderson program. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Let's go to Mike in Commerce. You're next on 97.1. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
So my points are, you know, when I look at the stats, obviously the fumbles were a major situation there, and the early defensive drawbacks, you know, on all those passes, what was doing. But, you know, that sneak play concerned me. I don't know if you touched on that. But
Which play? I'm sorry. Which play?
The sneak play on the punt.
Oh, the fake punt?
You know, yeah, the fake punt.
Okay.
That concerned me. I mean, they were on the 23-yard line, and they gave up a touchdown in that along those lines. And I know when they make it, I love it too, but it just seemed like kind of too risky at that point.
Well, we keep track of Campbell's gambles, and you can make a case that he went 0 for 5. Went for it on 4th down 5 separate times, including the fake punt, and went 0 for 5.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to live with that. But as far as Goff goes, you know, I'm with him. I mean, he had a bad game, but, you know, when I look at the overall stats, you know, the stats showed time of possession and yardages, rushing, and all that. It seemed like we were doing pretty good. It's those turnovers that killed us.
I'm staying corrected, by the way. They went 1 for 5. They got that 4th and 1 later in the 2-minute drive. Yeah, they can't turn it over. Look, it's not rocket science, man. You don't need to be related to Vince Lombardi to figure that out. There have been way too many turnovers in recent weeks. And can they get back to not turning it over? Of course they can. Jared Goff went 382 passes or whatever it was between interceptions. Okay, so whatever vibe you had going there, whatever you were doing then, you know, you got to return to that. Now, the fumbles have been a product of pressure. I can't explain what went wrong yesterday, but this offensive line, which we've come to rely on being very good, gave up an unusually high number of QB pressures. And Goff, we know his limitations. We also know his skill set and how he makes it work. He's been great for this offense. But when you start breaking down some of the pedestals that he's, you know, leaning on, some of the pillars, I should say, he's leaning on, like great protection, like receivers getting open, things that help all quarterbacks, but our guy needs it more, right? Now, he's fit the ball in the tight windows. To be fair, he's made some really good throws to receivers that had been blanketed in coverage, but he hasn't had to because as much as maybe some other quarterbacks, because he's given time and his receivers have a chance to get open. I mean, it was an accumulative effect of, you know, you got 3 starters out in the Green Bay secondary. How come guys weren't running wide open? You've got a great offensive line that's played banged up already this year, and they weren't protecting him. And the quarterback who hasn't turned it over. So, look, it was a bad performance. And maybe it's just what they needed. Maybe they got to go back to the drawing board. I haven't got the sense that they have been patting themselves on the back. I haven't got the sense that there are warning signs that this team feels like it's already accomplished something. But they know that better than anybody else. So, all right, back to the drawing board. They got a couple days off. Dan Campbell, again, I don't want to call this a crisis. I don't think it was a crisis. I don't think they're at a crisis point. But Dan Campbell, it's time to troubleshoot. Figure this thing out. It's a big part of being a head coach. It's not going to be a smooth ride all the time. They weren't going to go undefeated the rest of the way. He didn't want to lose any of these games. Didn't want to lose an NFC game. Didn't want to lose a division game. But they got to sort it out. And look, playoffs are still a high probability. Division championship's still a high probability. So they've got weeks to try and sort this thing out. And, I don't know that we should give up on this season just yet. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Dave on a cell. You're next. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Doug.
Hey.
Good morning.
Morning.
Look, I strongly believe that when the Lions passed up on Chase Young and Montez Sweat, they gave up the hope of winning Super Bowl this year. You could tell from that, that's not a championship defense. We all know that. And then you look at, what they're doing with Aiden. He's a one-man gang. There's no other person providing any pressure on the QB, and that killed them big in the last two games, even though they won. They got away, but we knew that defense ain't a championship defense without those two guys. They passed up. It was a bad decision not to pick up either one of those guys for a third rounder.
No, it would have been a first rounder for Montez Sweat because they would have had to beat the Bears' second rounder that they offered, and the Lions would have had to go with a first rounder then. Chase Young might have been able to had him for a third rounder. The thing that's weird about it is we just don't know at this point what those conversations were. But, if we are to assume that they had the same offer, it might turn out to be a mistake. And, time will tell on that. But the pass rush, which has been a concern all season long, has got to this point where I'm not sure that they're going to get done what they want to get done in-house. Hope so. But I'm not sure about that. 248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback. We'll hear from Dan Campbell, Jared Goff coming up. More of your Michigan, Ohio State calls. It's a Black Friday edition to the program. Gator out. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797. Back to your phone calls. Greg is in Dearborn and is next. What's up, Greg?
What's up, Doug? How's it going, man?
Good. Are you going through the checkout right now?
Yeah, dude. I thought I was going to be able to hold off here. But
Perfect. Hilarious.
But I was calling regarding the Michigan game. But, I don't think you have anything to worry about Love at all. We just generated zero pass rush. I don't understand why they didn't. I mean, after they decided not to add anything to the D-line, I mean, they should have known that, okay, we have to generate pass rush by blitzing a lot, with linebackers. And they barely did that at all.
I don't know what the numbers were, but, Greg, my instinct tells me you're right. They didn't blitz a ton.
I mean, they maybe blitzed Anzalone. They maybe blitzed him a couple of times, and I think he had some good pressure. But other than that, I mean, that was it. But I was really calling this on the Michigan game.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about worries earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And one of my big worries is that Ryan Day is coaching for his job now. Before, it seemed like he was kind of coaching to be cute almost. And, kind of not cute really, but trying to prove they were tough, right? That was a big deal. But now, I think, if he loses this, I don't think he's going back to T-Bus at all.
And interesting, Greg. I don't want to presume that I have any insight as to what's going on down in Columbus, because I his record is incredible. But if they lose this third one, I don't know. I don't even feel comfortable commenting on because I just don't know. But man, that would be the criticism, and lose to a acting head coach, an interim coach. And it's in play. It's in play. They could lose. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close football game. 248-539-9797. We go to Ryan on a cell. You're on 97.1 a ticket. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, good morning, Doug. First thing I want to say is happy Thanksgiving, and wanted you to know I'm thankful for you as the voice of Michigan football. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving as well, Ryan.
Well, I did until I started watching the Lions. I live out in Arizona, and I went for about a 4-mile walk.
Yeah.
I get too stressed out. But I wanted to talk about, and you're closer to the situation, but it doesn't seem to me I'm hearing any sort of criticism of Aaron Glenn, nor accountability toward Aaron Glenn by Dan Campbell. And it seems like he's willing to hold other people accountable, but the part that I think is most concerning about the Lions and the biggest red flag I see is his accountability, at least from my view, isn't complete. It seems that Aaron Glenn, we're seeing the same thing. What is he, 35 games into his tenure as defensive coordinator?
They've had some rough games here, Ryan. I mean, here's the one thing we don't know. Dan Campbell, midway through last year, made a change to the coaching staff. So, and I think that tells us that he's not worried about, he will make the necessary moves to make this the best, give them the best chance to win. As far as, accountability, I mean, publicly is one thing. Behind closed doors is something else. And I wonder about that myself. Like, what level of concern does he have about his defensive coordinator at this point? Because I'm a big Aaron Glenn fan because of the way, and I'm going to be clear here, because of the way Aaron Glenn communicates with the media. I think he's really, really insightful and good to listen to. But I've said this on the air a ton. I don't confuse that with meaning he's a great coach. It could be indicative of him being a great coach, but I don't get carried away with how good a talker you are to the media. He seems to instill confidence when I hear him talk, Ryan, that he is aware of problems and knows how to fix them. But it's been a rough stretch. I mean, the Commanders just fired their defense coordinator today. Does that have anything to do with what's going on in Detroit? Probably not. But I think Dan Campbell's already proven if he thinks that somebody else can do better, not a punitive fire, but how do we get better? If he thinks somebody else should be in charge of the defense, I'm not concerned that he won't make that call. I think he would make that call, Ryan.
Yeah, I hope so. I trust him, and it's hard rooting for this team this year because we don't know how to root for a good team. We're looking for all these. We're looking for the ceiling, to fall down on us or something. And and I'll bet Aaron Glenn, my take on him, just observing him, he seems like he's a rock solid guy. I really, I want to see them continue to improve. I just don't see good teaching on defense. I see missed assignments. I see regression in some cases. I mean, even Brian Branch hasn't looked as good since he's come back from his injury. Maybe he's still hurt, but anyway, I'll let you get to more callers. I appreciate you. And,
thanks, Ryan.
You guys have a happy holiday.
Yep, you too. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Ron, who's next on 97 Won a Ticket. What's up, Ron?
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, listen, tough times makes for tough decisions. I do want to thank the Lions for giving me the opportunity in the second half to go out and hang my Christmas tree lights yesterday. It was time well spent. Yeah, but actually, that's a true story. Anyways, but on this, and I don't want to hang out anybody to dry, but, in this town, when you don't produce, nothing gets your attention more than when one of your colleagues gets fired, okay? You could talk to anybody in the automotive industry about that. Anyways, caller after caller has told us about the lack of the pass rush, okay? Take a page from last year where they released the defensive back who had four pass interferences against New England. And again, maybe unfair, but Aquara, did that guy break a sweat yesterday? I don't think so. God bless.
Well, he didn't play. One of them was scratched.
And Hutchinson and Buggs, but Aquara, he is expendable.
You're talking about Romeo Aquara. Julian Aquara was a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a bit of a disappointment.
Listen, sir, that will send a message, okay? It will send a message. That's, it's tough time. Hey, listen, I'm running out of time, pal. I'm 72 years old. I want to see the Lions win, okay? And if it takes to have some 24 or 25-year-old guy get fired, then so be it, okay?
Do it for Ron, Lions. Do it for Ron. Romeo Aquara played 8 snaps, accumulated no stats yesterday. But, I mean, the fact that he's only playing 8 snaps is interesting. Like, does that tell you where he falls in the totem pole right now? I mean, their pass rush, you just hope that Brad Holmes, I mean, he's made a lot of good calls. They came out of the trade deadline without any help at the edge rusher spot. I'm always a little bit leery. I was told there was one player that they just didn't love the fit. But, that sometimes you got to take some chances. But you don't know. We don't know what deals were available to the Lions. And I'm hopeful that they're right, that they can get something done in-house, but they're going to have to figure something out because there was no pass rush yesterday. And Jordan Love looked spectacular. He looked exceptionally good. 248-539-9797. Sean is next on 97.1. Hi, Sean.
How you doing?
Okay.
First I want to say, man, I don't understand why Benito Jones keep dressing, man, over Buggs. Isaiah Buggs helps our defense look totally different. But then also I want to say, for yesterday, everybody keep blaming Aaron Glenn. I'm upset that we didn't add help on the defensive end. But yesterday, our defense gave up 14 points the first 2 drives. After that, they adjusted well. After the 14 points, Jared Goff fumbled the ball. After he fumbled the ball, they gave up 6 points. That's a touchdown.
Yep.
To score 20-6. In the second half, fumbled the ball again, close to the red zone. The defense held up, gave up a field goal. That made the score, 23-14. Dan Campbell in the fourth quarter, or maybe late third quarter, he goes for the ball on our 23-yard line, have their defense out there. That's not on Aaron Glenn. Even though the defense could have held up, they gave up a touchdown from the 23-yard line, which made the game 29-14. I don't blame that game on Aaron Glenn.
No, I mean, it's a valid point. You know what I think the part of the problem is the last two games, the Lions have, in a hurry, given up an opening touchdown, an opening drive for a touchdown where they get shredded. They got shredded by the Bears. They got shredded by Green Bay. But you're right. There was a fumble return for a touchdown, and there was a short field touchdown. That accounts for 14 points. It doesn't fall on Aaron Glenn. You're making a valid point.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like that. Even with like the Seattle game, the offense, the defense gave up a touchdown on the opening drive, and then didn't give up no points all the way into the second half. When the offense fumbled on the opening drive of the second half, the score ended up giving up 30 points. Also, Jared Goff threw a pick six in that game. So sometimes it'd be looking more on the defense than it actually is.
That's a fair point.
Automatically, you can't blame the defense.
Sean, that's a fair point.
Jared Goff got to stop turning that ball over.
They got to stop turning the ball over in their own territory. They got to stop turning it over, period. But, yeah, it was last few weeks, it's been a rough go. Now, they've managed to win 2 of the 3. Let's not forget that. In this league, I think we, not being accustomed to winning, think winning is kind of easy. And it's not. It's not, right? It's week in, week out. Football games are close. We've been on the losing end of these forever. And I remember years ago, I was young. Terry Foster, I was working with him. He was grizzled veteran of this. And I kept saying, the Lions, that was a one-score game, Terry. They're just right there. And Terry's like, young Douglas, they're all one-score games. Young Douglas, look around the league. Young Douglas. And I'm like, yeah, but they're right there if it weren't for this play or that play. 4 or 5 plays determine a game. So many of them are close that when you win, in the end, that's all that matters. This feels like we're reacting to this as if it's bigger than a 1-game losing streak. Doesn't it? They've lost 1 in a row. 248-539-9797. Hey, I'm going to do some picks coming up as the noon game's about to get started in college football. If I bet it, coming up today at 11:54. Plus more of your phone calls and feedback. Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, if you're tired of dry, itchy skin in this colder weather, get a Connecticut water purification system installed by CGC Water. And if you're tired of running out of hot water, do what we did and call CGC Water and ask for a Navien tankless water heater. We got all the kids in the house this weekend. We never run out of hot water. It's great. Plus, our energy consumption's gone down. We're saving money monthly. Call CGC Water and tell them Doug Carr sent you. And CGC will offer you 10% off the installation of a Navien tankless water heater. 855-339-4242 or visit cgcwater.com. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Doug Harsh, Gator out today. If I bet it coming up in about 8 minutes, I'll just give you some picks here leading into the weekend. College football games start at noon, so I want to get these picks in early. 248-539-9797. Michigan, Ohio State calls. I gave you all my thoughts on how this game's going to go and what it's going to come down to. And no way. So much of it comes down to the trenches. And we'll see which team can run the ball better, health of some guys, and how much of a difference it has not having Jim Harbaugh. You know, crowd can matter too. Crowd can matter a lot. Let's get back to your phone calls as who do we got here next? Scott in New Boston. What's up, Scott?
Yeah, hey, I was calling in. A previous caller kind of hit the nail on the head. That's what I was calling for. Everyone's shredding Aaron Glenn because the first 2 drives we looked pitiful in, right? Yep. First drive was probably scripted. But at the end of the day, we get the ball back. If we don't turn it over and let him score, we probably tie it up.
No, it's very valid.
We give him the touchdown right there. Then in the second half, I'm going to give him a short field twice. I mean, one time he held him to a field goal, but after those first 2 drives, I thought a very poorly athletic secondary played good, right? I mean, he's dealing with two of his probably his top defenders outside of Hutchinson out, Mosley and Gardner. He's got a horrible secondary. I mean, I go to every game. I didn't go yesterday, but you watch our secondary out there, and receivers are running free on us all day long, which is why we got to get a pass rush.
It's a deadly combination, right? The time that Jordan Love was given, and I don't think a star was born. I am so scared that Green Bay is going to hand the torch to another great quarterback. I've become paranoid about it. And yesterday he looked like that guy, but he was sitting back in the pocket taking his time.
Right. And that's the thing. And people don't realize that. You can put any quarterback. Look at Dak Prescott. He's a superstar when his line plays good. When his line plays bad, he's awful. So, I'm not super worried about it, but I will tell you this. We got to get a pass rush, number one. And number two, going for it on that, fake punt, man, we had all the momentum. We had just scored. We stopped him. I don't know if that was a good call or not. If it works, he's a superstar. But I felt like the momentum in the whole stadium just died when we didn't get that.
Yeah. Yep.
You can second guess it. I love the fact he goes for it, but then, something like that happens. But I'm going to say this to Aaron Glenn. People got to realize our talent in our secondary is bad. It's really bad. You can have the best defensive coordinator out there, but if you're just jogging around letting receivers break open. And I'll say this for you, go. I know you got a lot going on. I appreciate you taking my call. Did Jared Goff throw one pass that was 10 yards down the field yesterday? Did he attempt one time anything more than 10 yards down the field? I don't think he did.
Yes, he did. I mean, the flea flicker for one.
The flea flicker. Yeah.
But I'd have to go back and see air yards on his throws, but he did one. I know that just off the top of my head. And he took another deep shot. I have to go back and look. But 248-539-9797. It's hard for deep routes to develop when the pocket collapses immediately. And that was a strange thing. I think if you protect Jared Goff yesterday, the Lions win the game. Both of his fumbles came a product of lack of protection. And look, I'm not here to make excuses for Jared Goff. He's got to tuck the football. He's got to do a better job. 248-539-9797. But one thing about that's kind of easily fixed, isn't it? Hey, tuck the ball. Tuck the ball. And if you're not getting hit when you delivered, the first one's not a fumble. But again, culpability, Goff, O-line. I would have thought against a shredded secondary, 3 starters out for Green Bay, Detroit's guys would have been running wide open. And they weren't. Let's go to Jeff next here on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Doug. How's it going?
Okay.
Listen, some of these guys already stole some of my thunder, but Aaron Glenn, he's got to go. This defense has only progressively gotten worse over the last few weeks, not better. It's been pathetic, and we have 6 games left. I'm telling you right now, I see possibly 2 wins: New Orleans and Denver.
I'll take
They
the
will
over.
not beat Chicago. They will lose both to Minnesota, and they'll lose to Dallas. They got 2 possible wins. That's it. There's no way they're going to win any more than 2 games. Not with this defense, and not the way the offense has been playing over the last, especially yesterday. The offense was terrible, and that was against a team that was riddled with injuries, worse than us, and they took us apart like we had no football team on the field. It was pathetic. 2 more wins is all good.
That's too bad. I really thought we had a chance. What a shame. 248-539-9797. Let's go to John next here on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up?
Man, it sucks we only get 2 more wins.
Yeah, it's been a fun season, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was. Yep. Yeah, so I think the guy Sean and the other guy before this last guy hit it. They were calling with my same points. We let them score 20 points in the first quarter, and then after that, 9. So you can't say now. Granted, the deep pass, the first shot they took, they got it, and then they get down there and they score. Then we give them a fumble recovery, and we can't score. The defense, I don't think, is the problem in that game. Now, I'm not saying in other games or whatever, but that game yesterday, that was a Jared Goff thing. I'm at the 45-yard line on the 13th row, and I'm looking at these passes. He was rushed a lot, but a lot of times he was just off. And I've seen that. I've seen the ticket holder for the first time this year, and I'm just seeing sometimes he just throws the ball at people's feet. Yesterday there was about 4 passes where he was just. It looked like different routes was supposed to happen, and the ball was totally in the wrong place. I'm like, what is going on? So, but I do think that we're going to be okay. We can't put all the blame on Glenn if we also are saying that we need help. Now, Brad Holmes, he tried. He got what he got? CJ GJ. He got what's the guy? Mobley. Emmanuel Mosley. Yeah, and Sutton. One of the 3 of his additions to our secondary is there.
John, there was something. I mean, you brought it up, and there was something that Dan Campbell said at halftime of that game, apparently to Aaron Andrews, that I thought was really odd, and that was that we're running the wrong routes. We're running some wrong routes, and I'm paraphrasing, and I'm like, how in game 11 is this? Is this the case? Because something was off. Goff and his receivers, they were not in synchrony yesterday. And, you can tell. Goff reminds me of, I remember this with Chad Henne was the case. When you hit that back step of your 5-step or 7-step drop, whatever it is, and the ball comes out on time, before you even see the receiver, it's a completion. And that wasn't happening almost at all yesterday. He seemed to have to work his way through his progressions, which he's been able to do because he's had time, because the offensive line was so good. And then yesterday they weren't. And so he couldn't work his way through his progression. So if guys aren't open or running the wrong routes, which was, I was surprised that usually those halftime interviews, not much is gleaned. I'm like, that's odd. But if guys are running the wrong routes, something's going on there. And they aren't protecting him, so he can't work his way through his progressions. That's not going to work. That's not going to work for very many quarterbacks. I mean, it might work for Lamar because Lamar will bounce around and run around back there, but I mean, we know limitations of the quarterback in Detroit. We know his strengths as well. He's very good, but there's certain things that we all need to be successful in our jobs, right? Okay, let's get to some picks. All right, I'm doing this early because I'm going to some noon games, some early games in college football. Specifically, Iowa is getting 2.5 at Nebraska. And 2.5 points in this game is a massive total. The over-under is 25.5. So I'll take Iowa plus the 2.5 as my Car House lock of the week. I like Missouri, their outstanding passing game, going against an Arkansas team that's beaten like Kent State and Western Carolina. They've got 4 wins. None of them are quality wins. I'll take Missouri to cover the 8.5. Oklahoma takes their offense to TCU, still trying to win a share of the Big 12. Motivated group of Sooners, minus 9.5. I'll take them. So again, Iowa's the Car House lock. I got Missouri minus 8.5. I got Oklahoma minus 9.5. In the National Football League, I'll take one of the hottest teams in the league, won 4 in a row, Denver at home, laying 1.5 to Cleveland. I like Tennessee also at home, laying 3.5 to Carolina. And I'll take Jacksonville minus 1.5 on the road at Houston. There are picks. Hoping for a good week. Thank you for listening. We'll get to more of your phone calls and feedback coming up. We got Red Wing hockey this afternoon here on 97.1 The Ticket. All right, happy Friday, everybody. Black Friday. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Doug Karsch-Skater out today. He'll be back on Monday. Open the show with a lot of Michigan-Ohio State talk. Lions talk has since taken over. If you want to talk Wolverines and Buckeyes, I give you my keys to the game, my concerns. I got Michigan in a close game here, but I think this one's going to be very close. I like the Wolverines something like 21-17, something like that. In the meantime, Lions angst is it's an all-time high. It feels like, this feels like a losing streak. It's only one game. I feel like people are treating it like a losing streak. A lot of panic over the defense. Look, some calmer heads have prevailed here. There was a fumble recovery, a scoop and score for a touchdown. There was a short field after a fake punt. Could have been a much better performance defensively. The offense did put the defense in bad positions. The thing that's most below expectation was the play of the offense. The offensive line, which has been really, really good, they have set a high standard. And we hold them to that high standard. They weren't great, okay? Simply put, they just weren't great. And we're accustomed to them being great. Goff, we know the formula. When Goff is given time, he's been great. He's been great. And, if you look at culpability on Goff, look, I feel like the point of telling a professional quarterback this or making this point, it's so obvious. You just, yes, he needs to take better care of the football. When he got hit when he was delivering it, maybe he should have ate that one, but when you're running with the football, you got to tuck it quickly and not expose it to a defender to knock it away. There is a move that's being made today, according to Adam Schefter, breaking. The Eagles are waiving defensive end Derek Barnett. Now, he was coming off an ACL. He hasn't done much this year. I'm going to have to go look it up, but I don't think there's been much he has done. This is a former first-round pick. There was talk about them trading him. It would be a total flyer, okay? A total flyer. But at this point, the pass rush, which didn't get help at the trade deadline, is a bit of a concern, to say the least. And this is a 27-year-old who in his career has 21 and a half sacks and didn't do anything. Missed the 22 season, has played in 8 games this year and has 3 tackles. He hasn't done much for Philly. But is there lightning in a bottle out there to be? They went with Bruce Irvin hoping for lightning in a bottle. But see what if there's any interest there. According to Schefter, let me read this tweet here. Eagles are waiving defensive end Derek Barnett today. Per sources, the 14th overall pick of the 2017 draft is expected to draw interest and find a new home soon. just something to keep an eye on. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. We go to Bill on a cellular on 97 on a ticker. What's up, Bill?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Okay.
Good. Love the show. First of all, I want to give props to the guy that said the Lions are only going to win 2 more games. Having the cojones to call from the dispensary that high, you got to admire the guy. Second of all, I realized something he and Aaron Glenn have in common. Neither of them will be the Lions' defensive coordinator next year, guaranteed. I've been watching the Lions rebuild for 60 years, along with Ron, I think the caller from before. And I love the Kool-Aid. I love the fact. I love Dan Campbell. I think this is the best Lions team we've had in a long, long time. But I think when you get right down to the nitty-gritty, they are not a Kansas City. They're not a Philadelphia. And frankly, I still think San Francisco's tough. I think they just came off a couple of bad games. But, I think the secondary, it's just the defense overall is an issue. I think you get any quarterback that can run the 40 in less than 10 seconds that can move sideways. I think our secondary is abandoning their posts and thinking these guys are going to take off. And a lot of times some of these passes, these guys are like, 10, 15 yards. You got no one within 10 to 15 yards from them. I think that's a big issue. Could the Lions win the Super Bowl? Absolutely. They're definitely the kind of team that that could do it. They're the team that could beat anyone anytime. And it was disheartening yesterday. You mentioned it's like we're coming off a streak. I think the issue isn't the fact that, oh my God, we're starting a losing streak. You can't. Super Bowl contending teams can't lose at home to 4 and 6 teams. And I agree with you 100%. Jordan Love is. I'd take Jared Goff over Jordan Love all day. Goff's a good quarterback. Yeah, he's thrown a couple bad passes, but I think the Lions are going to be good. Are they going to finish 14-3? Probably not. Are they going to win the division? Absolutely. Are we going to get a home field playoff game? Probably. But it's just disheartening to see the defense collapse like that. And we can't be spotting teams 20 points, in the first quarter anymore. On a second note,
I'll tell you this, and Billy, appreciate the phone call. I'm not a believer in these hard and fast Super Bowl teams don't lose to 4-6 teams. I mean, sure they can.
That would rule out the Eagles this year.
Did they lose at home to a 4-6 team?
Oh no, but they lost to the Jets, who were in 4-16.
Okay, yeah, that was a road game. Look, it's not a great thing to do, but seasons are long. We've talked about this, and we've said it like the caveat. We've said it over and over and over again, and that is seasons are long. They're filled with ups and downs. I know you just want it to be a straight line right to the top. We all do. But I think a caller hit the nail on the head last hour, said, we're not used to winning. We're not used to being in this position. So forgive us when we get to this point in a season, a very promising season, and panic breaks out. Absolute panic breaks out. And there's some of it. And Bill, I don't think you were particularly panicked, but I do think that, yeah, a Super Bowl team can have a bad loss mixed in. And I mean, that Jets loss for Philadelphia is a terrible loss. It's a terrible loss. I think San Francisco. You can use examples of their season and say they lost to the Browns, they lost to a Bengals team that was struggling, or a Vikings team that was struggling. Right? That was a 2-4 Vikings team they lost to. But whatever. I mean, look, just need to take a deep breath. I got some stuff to clean up. I guess I'm uncomfortable with going from trusting Dan Campbell to suddenly not thinking that they're capable of pulling out of this one-game losing streak. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Bruce next here on 97 What a Ticket. Oh, boy. Welcome to Geico. We'll go to Lamar next on 97 What a Ticket. Hi, Lamar.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, Lamar.
Hey, I just wanted to say, man, that the Lions, I think they did their best for this year. And, Green Bay, well, actually, last game, Chicago, they barely won that game, so that was an eye-opener for me, and I made a lot of money yesterday going with Green Bay because I just figured it was like the Titanic. It's going to happen, you know what I'm saying? But, they had a good season. I mean, they got 6 games coming up right now, and I don't really see them, like, winning 4 of those games. I see them winning 2 and maybe losing the rest. And then we just have to go back, to the offseason. Now, let me take that back. They will probably go to the playoffs. But I will put my house up. I will put my house up and bet they'll be out of their first round playoff time. That's how it is. I mean, it should be against the law to be celebrating end zone touchdowns when a team come back and beat you bad like that. It's just crazy to me. I mean, but I was a believer that they would, win majority of the games. But they had an easy season, and we just had to take what we could get. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's a spectacle. Yep. Hello?
Yeah, Lamar, thanks. Again, it's too bad. Thought we had a chance. Oh, well. 97.1 The Ticket. Okay. It's been a good run. But apparently the Lions season ended yesterday. 248-539-9797. Sure, there's some disturbing things. But I ask you this. How much of what they did is the opposite of what we've seen all season long? The biggest thing being the O-line. Now, they were banged up, but they've played well banged up this year already. Nonetheless, it feels like some people think the season ended yesterday. 248-539-9797. Let's go to, who do we got next? Jake and Macomb on 97 on a ticket. Hi, Jake.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
Good. I was going to piggyback off the last caller to say Super Bowl teams cannot lose against mediocre 4-6 teams is pretty crazy to say. If you look at the history of the league, I mean, if you just look at KC last year, I don't know if you remember the start to their season or not, but they started out like 1-3 or 1-2, if I'm not mistaken. People were counting Mahomes out and everything. They go on to win the whole thing. And then you can just look at this year, probably the most complete team in the league, San Fran. They lose 3 straight against not great teams. Things are going to happen throughout the year. Not to say that the Lions don't need to work on things. Absolutely they do. There's a lot of things that they can do to improve by playoff time, but they're going to be hosting a playoff game. And I would probably say Vegas is going to give us, 4.5, 5 point edge over that first game if it's Minnesota, New Orleans, whoever it's going to be. And I will take those chances on that. They do have a realistic shot to make a run here.
Well, look, I mean, your point about San Francisco, they lost to, was it Cleveland, Minnesota, and Cincinnati? Wasn't it those 3 teams all in a row?
Yeah, it was Cincy as well. Yeah, it was Cincy as well, and they were definitely looking, that was probably the top of their peak powers there this year, too.
Yeah, and so, you can, if we're going to go hard and fast rules, Super Bowl teams can't lose 3 games in a row to mediocre teams. But you're right about, they've got a 2-game lead with 6 left, okay? If they go 3-3, Minnesota has to go 5-1 and sweep Detroit, or 6-0 to win the division. That's a huge ask. If the Lions go 4-2, Cincinnati's got to go 6-0 and sweep, Minnesota's got to go 6-0 and sweep Detroit. That's a huge ask. It's a huge ask. So, take a deep breath. Yesterday sucked. We all saw it. But ask yourself, do you expect the offensive line to be that bad the rest of the way? And give up that many pressures? The wrong routes thing was weird. I'm not quite sure what that was all about. Some of that has to do with, the Donovan Peoples-Jones is getting broken in, Jameson Williams playing a bigger role, and these guys don't have a ton of experience in this offense. Did Green Bay do something uncharacteristic in coverage in the Lions' route trees? They were reading them wrong, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm not a football coach. But I thought there was an unusual comment that he apparently made to Aaron Andrews at halftime. Him being Dan Campbell. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Kenny. You're next on 97.1. Hello, Kenny.
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Okay.
Just calling about Packers. Huge Packer fan, longtime fan.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of want to know where the rest of the division's heading in your thoughts, because in all honesty, I think Packers do have the quarterback of the future. Something about the way he carries himself and the way he kind of takes lead of that team. I mean, not to give in 7 of those 9 wide receivers they have are rookies or second-year guys, including the tight ends as well. And I just think with such a young team, a little bit of love magic, I don't know really what to call it, but I think he's got that type of thing just sitting on the bench for the couple years behind Rodgers. I just kind of want to know where you think the division is going to go.
Look, the last week people were talking about Jordan Love, and I've got this weird paranoia that the Packers might have done it again and handed the torch to another great quarterback, but he's in the lower half of the league in many quarterback rankings, and one game doesn't change that necessarily. He looked spectacular yesterday. Yesterday, and I give him a ton of credit for that one game. But if last week I wasn't going to bury him after half a season, I'm certainly not going to elevate him to the next great thing after one great game against the Lions defense that was, it has its share of struggles. So I mean, look, this format is filled with hot takes. One of the coldest takes is we'll have to wait and see, but I think it's too early to proclaim anything about Jordan Love. 248-539-9797. Next up is Andy. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, Andy?
Yeah, actually, this is a good follow-up to the previous caller. Jordan Love is turning out to be a good quarterback, and there was a reason Green Bay drafted him when they did. It's taken him some time to develop, but Green Bay's now won 3 out of their last 4 games. And before the season, I thought that Green Bay might be better than people thought they were going to be. I just don't think it's in their DNA to have a bad season. And I'm wondering if things are turning around for them. With that in mind,
no.
The next game that the Lions have with New Orleans could be very pivotal. And if you look at the standings, as the Vikings and Packers are sneaking up on us, the last 3 games of the season could end up being nail-biters. We play Minnesota, Dallas, and Minnesota as our last 3 games. Minnesota plays Detroit, Green Bay, and Detroit as its last 3 games. And Green Bay plays Carolina, Minnesota, and Chicago. Christmas Eve, if this division
All right, thank you, Andy. Green Bay being 3 games back with 6 to go, to me, doesn't feel like they're going to be a factor in this division. Can Jordan Love be a good quarterback, as you said? Sure, he can be a good quarterback. I'm just worried about him being elite. Like, I'm worried about him being Rodgers or Favre. I don't think it's out of the question that he's got potential to be a good quarterback. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. I don't want a guy that's in the top 2 or 3 in the league when he's at the peak of his powers, and that has yet to be determined. You're right about the stretch run. The stretch run, it was going so well, I think people thought it was going to be easy, which is kind of unrealistic. I mean, teams got to work right to the end. Teams got to work right to the end. We're not accustomed to this. We're not used to it. Typically, it's not easy. It'd be awesome if it was. But, hey, man, play right to the end. I mean, I still think if you look at the FPI projection and on ESPN's website, had the Lions, I think, winning the division 86% of the time going into this game. 248-539-9797. We go to Dave in Oak Park. You're next here on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Dave.
How are you? And thank you for taking my call.
Sure, Dave.
I agree. I think that the loss is entirely, as far as I'm concerned, on the quarterback and the offensive line. Goff obviously didn't play well. The offensive line obviously didn't play well. Hence, you have the score that you have. I'm not calling, to ask you about Mr. Love, because we have a quarterback from Tennessee, in my opinion, that's even better than Love. But first thing first, this is a pivotal game because there's some tension and turmoil in that locker room. I think that you need a new defensive coordinator first and foremost, because apparently this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You can go to a 5-man front. There are a number of things that you can do. You can move Hutchinson around. He's not doing it. It's almost like he's mum to it. And they had an altercation on the sideline with one of the young cornerbacks of the Lions that no one has even said anything about. I'm wondering what that's about. But I think it's the inner turmoil here. I think this is good that this happened now. I'm sorry.
Let me stop. No, just real quick. First of all, what was it something you saw on TV? Were you at the game? What was it?
I had a friend that was at the game. He showed me some video of a tirade that was going on the sidelines between the Lions defensive backfield coach and one of the rookie cornerback, I think from oh my goodness, Syracuse, whatever. I'm sorry.
Well, Dre Bly was going at it with some.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could see from the film that I saw, you could see that there was tension. Here's my thing: get a new defensive quarterback. This guy, to me, just comes up with the same sets. There's a lot of things you can do to help Detroit's defense. You can move Hutchinson around, go on the waiver line, and get him some help. The Buffalo has a linebacker that can be signed. There's a few teams that have players that can help us now. Moving forward, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to host a playoff game, but I think that they'll play much better from here on in because Goff is under a microscope now when he shouldn't be. He's had a terrific season, but Goff cannot, as you said, you've got to protect it. You got to protect the football, man.
Look, thank you for the phone call. There's there's guys that are certainly more well-rounded, okay? But we all, if you talk about the things that Jared Goff needs to be successful, he's found them all here in Detroit. He's found them all here in Detroit and has gone through an incredible stretch. Going into yesterday, the Lions were 16-4 in their last 20 games. The best record in the NFL over a 20-game stretch, okay? So then they go out and they have a completely out of character performance. What are we doing here? We're doing the old, what did your eyes show you last? And that's what you're trusting more than the 20 games leading up to it. Where problems that they had defensively, they were good enough offensively to overcome them, and their offense operated a high level proficiency that didn't have a turnover problem, which has crept up in the last couple of weeks. But if you're looking to try and figure this out, do you trust what your eyes showed you last? Or, it's kind of easy, and I guess to do that, but is it accurate? Or do you go with the previous 20 games? People say, there were signs that they were in trouble. Were there? Or are most games in the NFL close? We've done it as losers forever. I did it. Hey, they're 5-11, but man, a lot of those games were close. So many games in the NFL are close. Almost all of them are one-score games. I got schooled by Terry Foster back in the day on that. Red Wing Hockey coming up this afternoon. More of your phone calls and feedback coming up. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, hold on to your glasses because there's some exciting news in the world of vodka. Stoli Vodka, the iconic brand known for its exceptional quality and rich heritage, has just unveiled a stunning new bottle design that's sure to turn heads at your next gathering. The new Stoli Vodka bottle is a true work of art. Its sleek and modern silhouette reflects the brand's commitment to innovation and premium craftsmanship. But it's not about the looks. It's about what's inside that counts. Grab a bottle today. Experience the spirit that's captivated the world for generations. Stoli Vodka. It's the taste of excellence. Cheers. I just saw the numbers here. I'm live, just put a story up. Pro Football Focus credited Green Bay for 33 pressures. 33 pressures. There were 44 attempts, 3 sacks, that's 47, and 3 carries by Jared Goff. That's 50. 33 pressures and 50 dropbacks. That is so uncharacteristic of this offensive line. 248-539-9797. Let's go. Who do we got next here? Jerome in Detroit. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, Jerome?
It's Drew, but
okay. All right. We got you, Drew.
Nah, you good, bro. Hey, look, I just want to say one thing to everybody in the city of Detroit. I just want to tell y'all one word: relax. And I say this because we're 8-3. We had an uncharacteristic game. Yes, we did, but at the same time, look, bro, we 8-3. We're the number 2 or number 3 power ranked team in the NFL. Okay, we started the season by beating the defending champs. Went on a winning streak. You knew this winning streak was going to come to fruition. You knew we were going to stop and we were going to have some bumps in a row. It is the NFL. If we don't have bumps in a row, we're going to have a bump in a row by the time the playoffs happen. So I'd rather have our bumps in a row before we get to the playoffs so we can make a hot streak happen at the end of the season when everybody's healthy. They didn't pull the trigger yesterday and play to their full potential only because it is the middle of the season. It is the middle of the season, close to the end of the season. They are trying to preserve and save for the playoffs. So what if we have 5 or 6 losses in a regular season? If we go to the playoffs and then eventually to the Super Bowl, which we have the team to do because we're built that way, we're going to be fine. So everybody needs to relax. That defense is trash. Aaron Glenn needs to go for sure. We need to fix that before the postseason happens. But at the end of the day, just relax, bro.
So a couple things here, Drew. Thank you for the phone call. I'll say this. I think Dan Campbell has already shown if he thinks he can get something better than Aaron Glenn right now, he'll do it. If he thinks he needs to bump somebody up from another position, there gets to be a point where I worry that people get angry and want someone fired because somebody has to pay. Instead of, hey, how do we get better defensively? Does Dan Campbell need to get more involved? Maybe. Does he determine that John Fox, who's on this defensive staff, can do a better job as a coordinator? Then fine. I mean, we're not in the business of protecting Aaron Glenn, and Lions aren't in the business of employing Aaron Glenn. But there's a big difference between, hey, I'm mad, somebody needs to pay, and hey, how do we get better? My guess here is that the way they get better, my guess is that Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn use this extra time off to really, really do a deep dive into what changes they can possibly make. Also, the idea of getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson and maybe James Houston back could help. I guess by the time those guys come back, other players will get hurt. Maybe they do go after a free agent or two, but Dan Campbell has proven if he thinks he can make a change to make things better, he'll do it. He'll do it. 248-539-9797, phone calls and feedback. Now, it's been pointed out that, yeah, the point total was a lot. The first couple of drives, alarming. Yet at the end of the day, there was a scoop and score, and the Packers taking over well into plus territory after the Lions tried a fake punt. In a 7-point game that included, the Lions melting down offensively. I'm not quite sure if there's as much defensive culpability as is getting played today. 248-539-9797. Let's get back to your phone calls. We'll go to Jeff next on 97.1. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing today, Doug?
Good.
Good. I just think, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're ahead of schedule as the Lions as an organization is?
Yes.
Does everybody think we would be 8-3?
Yeah,
people think our only loss would come against a great Baltimore team, a little flounder with that happened this past weekend, and another silly loss to Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that this is their first really bad. This is for their first, put in quote, bad loss. Relatively speaking,
I think we're going to win four more games. I think we're going to beat Dallas. I think we'll lose one in Minnesota, and I think this New Orleans game might even be a trap game. I think we might lose to New Orleans, but everybody was watching that Chicago game last week, and we overcame adversity, all this stuff, and now they're writing us off just because of a bad outing. And if you look how the game played out, like you said earlier in your conversation with other people, if it wasn't for these little fumbles and Jared Goff's arm getting hit and stuff like that, we would have won that game.
Well, they might have. The truth is, so many close games are played in the NFL that the idea that I think people thought this was going to be easy. I think that's one of the big mistakes being made. People think it's easy, and it's not. Even the best teams have to battle and scratch and claw, and the Lions have been in the conversation of the best teams in the league, and they deserve to be. 16-4 over a 20-game stretch is the best record in the NFL. And we're just not used to what it's like to be a team near the top. Now, stuff needs to get corrected. Stuff needs to be better. Everything that we see, believe it, the coaches see all that and more. So, look, they've got some time off here to maybe address some things. All right, we got Red Wing hockey coming up this afternoon. I'll be on the air tomorrow during the tailgate show, and then from the Big House starting at 11 with the pregame show. It's Michigan and Ohio State. I think this is, this is obviously a huge game, and Michigan's got a lot of stuff going for them and a lot of stuff working against them. Not having Jim Harbaugh is a big deal. This run game isn't as gaudy as it's been in the past couple of years, but I think maybe in a kind of a gritty way the last 2 weeks they showed more in the run game. Quarterback play, I don't know how Kyle McCord reacts to this situation, and I don't know if JJ is 100% healthy, so it's going to be big to watch. We'll be watching it during warm-ups, and we'll update you throughout that warm-up, throughout the tailgate and the pregame show, how those guys look. So big game. I like the Wolverines 21-17. So I think it's a lower scoring affair than previous years. All right, have a great long weekend, everybody. Red Wing hockey coming up next here on 97.1 The Ticket.